her to keep going? It was possible. MacArthur's expression darkened. We're close to the finish line. Suchin might not give up and is driving her forcefully. Turkey Bro immediately commanded, quick, send a high-speed drone to catch up and take a look. In the audience, Jessica and Queen both looked equally grim. This was outrageous. How could anyone treat their mech girl like this? It was just a city championship. They could participate again in 6 months. Was it really necessary? Jessica crossed her arms, shaking with anger. She was also a pilot, albeit one who rarely competed. But she took great care of her own mech girl, never skipping the monthly maintenance. She couldn't bear to see Star Dream, with a blown tire, being forced to continue racing. Although the damaged wheel could be repaired, it was like bones scraping against the ground. That kind of painful memory could never be erased. Once experienced, the mech girl would remember it for life. Queen clenched her fists as she watched Star Dream speeding down the track. Her view differed from Jessica's. Suchin wasn't that kind of person. She murmured softly to herself, just loud enough for her to hear. This race should be Star Dream's gift to her pilot. A medal she earned by picking herself off the ground. Jessica had never interacted with Suchin or Star Dream, but Queen had. She knew the stories behind Star Dream and understood her perseverance. So instead of questioning Suchin and Star Dream's decisions, she turned to Jessica. Call my medical team and logistics team and have them wait at the finish line. Huh. Jessica was taken aback, mouth agape. In 3 minutes. Queen said calmly, I want to see them reach the finish line within 3 minutes and ensure they get the best care from Suchin and Star Dream. If that can be done, I will cooperate with your modifications afterwards and sign a waiver, with no further objections. Is there really such a good deal? After a moment of surprise, Jessica quickly jogged off to make the call. Queen didn't care about the relationship between her and the number 22 contestants. After all, she had been working hard for Queen to cooperate with the modifications. The regulations prohibited forcing mech girls, but where there were policies, there were also loopholes. The rules were rules, but many gaps could still be exploited. For example, the waiver. Chapter 48. Timely support. The high-speed drone struggled to keep up with the racing Star Dream. Despite the 2 rear wheels grinding fiercely on the track, the speed of the vehicle remained largely unchanged, maintaining an average speed of around 170 to 180 kilometers per hour. The electronic screen in front of the audience displayed the situation inside the cockpit. Suchin appeared pale and was saying something. From his gestures, it was clear he was doing everything he could to stop the vehicle. However, it continued to charge forward, gritting its metaphorical teeth. Even when Suchin's hands left the steering wheel and his foot came off the accelerator, it seemed the vehicle was in autonomous mode. Brother Turkey was stunned. He had just been ready to criticize Suchin fiercely. It turned out that it wasn't Suchin refusing to stop, but rather the vehicle itself that didn't want to halt. What strong willpower this machine had. MacArthur's eyes widened as he held his breath, his voice trembling. Do you know? When a machine blows a tire, it's like a human leg bone grinding against the ground at high speed. Most machines would faint from the pain immediately, yet she actually endured the excruciating pain to continue racing? The audience watched in shock. From the perspective of the drone, the girl's back arched in pain. Her legs cramped unnaturally, tears glistening in her eyes. Even in such agony, she gritted her teeth and persevered, until she fainted from the pain. Everyone stared at the big screen, feeling a tightness in their chests as if something was stuck inside. The once lively audience was now silent, as if a pin drop could be heard. On the track, the vehicle crossed the finish line. After it fell unconscious, Suchin immediately slowed down and braked. After all, he had a bond with the vehicle, and his control over it was only 40. It was only now that he could brake and slowly guide the vehicle into the safe zone. But before he could come to a complete stop, the vehicle, having exhausted its power due to continuous damage, automatically shut down. Suchin quickly lifted the girl, soaked in sweat, instinctively looking at her bare feet, which were now covered in wounds. Her once fair and lovely soles were now cracked as if burned by fierce flames. The cracks spread from her soles up to her calves, resembling a half-broken porcelain piece that would shatter into fragments with the slightest touch. Feeling a lump in his throat, Suchin held the small body of the girl tightly and ran toward the track's exit. Doctor, he shouted, his voice tearing through the air. Where's the medical team? Where's the support? Help! His hoarse cries echoed at the finish line, symbolizing honor. The support and medical teams were still on the track. Some staff members, seeing Suchin carrying the girl around, quickly responded. We're short on personnel at the moment. Please wait a moment. Why are you short on staff? Suchin glared angrily. My machine is injured and yet cannot get help from the rescue team. Is this how you conduct a race? It wasn't just his machine that had a blown tire. A driver who had started early and reached the finish line chuckled bitterly. This track is too extreme. There are already 2 machines that blew tires at the gravel exit, and the medical team is over there. Damn it, Suchin cursed, carrying the girl and running out of the race area. If there was no medical team here, he would take her to the treatment center outside the race area. It's much faster to take a taxi there rather than waiting here. Just then, The sound of approaching rotors filled the air. A helicopter hovered above Su Chen's head. Two medical mech girls wearing white coats with a crescent cross emblem on their chests descended from a rope. One of them waved at Su Chen. "Mr. Su, please come over here." Su Chen didn't have time to think about where these medical mech girls came from. He quickly thanked them and handed Xingming over. Once on the helicopter, Xingming was taken to the back cabin for initial wound treatment. Su Chen then saw Queen and a short-haired woman who clearly looked like an assistant. "Queen, what is going on?" "This is the medical team from the Knight's Voice, kid." Jessica looked Su Chen up and down with a scrutinizing gaze. "Is this the kid who is Queen? Usually so grumpy, completely smitten?" "Yes, just a bit handsome. There's nothing special about him." Mech girls don't care about looks. If we're talking about skills, he's decent, but compared to the top-tier ones, he's still lacking. Jessica furrowed her brows, feeling increasingly displeased but couldn't find a reason to vent. After all, during the race, it wasn't Su Chen who forced Xingming. She insisted on finishing. And after her tire burst, Su Chen's handling was already akin to a professional driver. Su Chen ignored Jessica and turned to Queen with a questioning look. Queen nodded at him. "This is my medical team. Don't worry, Xingming's issue isn't serious and won't affect future races." "That's not what I'm concerned about," Su Chen said, glancing at the tightly shut medical cabin door of the helicopter, his tone urgent. "I want to know if it will affect her health and if there will be any aftereffects." Hearing this, Queen's stern expression softened considerably, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. There won't be any aftereffects, especially for such a brave mech girl like Xingming. A bit of pain is nothing to her. "That's good to hear," Su Chen sighed in relief. The tension in his body eased, and he slumped into the seat. Only then did he feel the aches in his back and waist. The bumpy ride had taken a toll on him as well. "Thank you so much today, Queen," he said sincerely. "If your medical team hadn't arrived in time, I would have had to take Xingming to a hospital outside the racetrack, which would have wasted a lot of time." "Well, you should be thanking me," Queen said leisurely as she smoothed the wrinkles on her skirt, smiling. "After all, fixing Xingming's condition will cost quite a bit, and if I remember correctly, you seem to be out of money?" Su Chen forced a sheepish smile. "He really was out of money. I'll find a way to pay you back. Please, just help Xingming recover. Money doesn't mean much to me." Queen let out a soft hum, glanced at Jessica beside her, and then leaned close to Su Chen's ear, whispering in a voice only the two could hear. "You and Xingming can continue staying at my place. I'll cook, she'll wash the dishes. And you're responsible for cleaning up after the McFlurry. 3 months. 1 month will do, and that can count as repaying me." Su Chen understood that this was Queen's goodwill. He didn't refuse or act pretentious, nodding and saying, "No problem." Queen smiled with satisfaction. The smile vanished in an instant as she turned around, and her expression became that familiar world-weary face when facing Jessica. Jessica perked up her ears, but still couldn't catch what Queen and Su Chen were secretly discussing. She could only glance curiously at Su Chen, consider Queen's temperament, and ultimately chose to keep her mouth shut. Turning a blind eye, she pretended not to see. Meanwhile, at the city championship, the competition was still ongoing. Just leaving the gravel segment, the usually silent Zhuiying suddenly turned serious. "Master, we might have a big problem." Her usually calm voice showed clear signs of panic at this moment. "My tire wear has already reached 20. Chapter 49. Flying jump mistake. This gravel road is truly annoying." Yu Ming's expression darkened. It was the first time he encountered a situation where tire wear exceeded 20 without finishing the race. After all, this was just a 250-kilometer city championship, and the tires he provided for Xing were not durable ones, but performance tires. At the start of the race, the host had mentioned that the originally 10-plus kilometer gravel segment was increased to 50 kilometers. By that time, there was no time to change to durable tires. "We'll have to slow down to preserve the tires," Yu Ming said helplessly. 20 already carries a risk of blowout. However, Zhuiying gritted her teeth, unwilling to back down. "Don't worry, slowing down won't affect our performance too much." Yu Ming smiled reassuringly. This 50-kilometer gravel road treats everyone equally. Whether it's Su Chen or that little brat Su Che, don't their machines also face high tire wear? I don't believe they'd risk a blowout just to maintain their speed for a better result. And the machines themselves know how painful it is to blow a tire and damage the rims. Zhuiying pondered over Yu Ming's words and found no flaws. It was like an exam that suddenly increased in difficulty, affecting all candidates equally. Everyone would be unhappy, and scores would drop. But the top few would still remain the top few, and there wouldn't be much change. But what if there were stubborn drivers and machines? Yu Ming shook his head and chuckled. If there really is a driver forcing their machine to continue despite a blowout, they can just wait for arbitration from the Machine Protection Association. The minimum penalty is a 3-year suspension, forced contract termination, and a fine. As for the machines, he paused, unable to think of any situation that could match such a scenario. Who would be so foolish? It's just a city championship. Is it worth ruining a lifetime for? This kind of competition can be participated in twice a year. Wow, that is true. Zhuiying also couldn't imagine such a situation. If it's a national-level competition, perhaps some participants would go all out for victory and honor. But for a city championship, there's really no need to make a big fuss. With this in mind, she felt more at ease and lowered her speed a bit under Yoming's control, as the finish line wasn't too far away. Meanwhile, Su Che and Feng He had also left the gravel section. Compared to other participants struggling through the rough terrain, Feng He appeared very calm, even a bit reluctant to leave. This was thanks to her excellent stability and heavy, durable tires. Of course, it also had a lot to do with her hobby, which allowed her to exit the gravel section faster, thus reducing tire wear in a different way. Fortunately, she had heeded the advice of the modification team yesterday and changed to durable tires. Su Che sighed in relief as he looked at the gravel road disappearing in the rearview mirror. This is ridiculous, a 50-kilometer rough road. Who designed this? My back is sore from all the bumps. Master, hang in there, we're almost at the finish line. Compared to when he was being pushed earlier, Feng He had now returned to her usual gentle demeanor, but she still teased Su Che. Your back won't hurt for long. When we get back, I'll give you a good massage myself. No thanks, Su Che replied, blushing as he touched his nose. He had a strange feeling, as if today's track was specially designed for him and Feng He. Feng He wasn't good at continuous curves, and this time there were fewer hairpin turns in the race. However, the special terrain she excelled at was present for a full 50 kilometers. There was no time to think too much, as they soon approached the first jump after the gravel road. Master, 150 meters ahead, jump ramp, ease off the throttle. In the blink of an eye, 150 meters passed, and Su Che performed a standard jump, adjusting Feng He's body for landing. However, after landing, he frowned and murmured, something feels off today, not as agile as before. The tires are too heavy. Feng He also looked uneasy. Master, did the modification team really give us the right tires yesterday? The jump just now felt more like a 20-kilogram set of durable tires. Among the standard durable tires at Xingguan Club, this type is 3 kilograms heavier and has about 20 more durability. But he distinctly remembered the label on the tires being correct. Feng He, are you sure about the weight? I didn't notice it while running normally, Feng He said softly, but during the jump, the difference was clear. These are definitely not the right tires. They're heavier. Damn it. Su Che's expression darkened, almost certain that the modification team had mixed up the tires. He should have checked them thoroughly before the race instead of completely relying on the team's inspection. Master, it's not a big issue. Feng He continued to reassure Su Che. The extra unsprung weight will make my vehicle respond more sluggishly, and we'll need to adjust for the jump since the weight is unfamiliar. I know, Su Che nodded. Just as he finished speaking, the next, more difficult jump and curve combination appeared in their view. Master, 100 meters, big jump ramp, left tilt after takeoff. Land and immediately turn right. The sound from Feng He was urgent, and Su Che immediately reacted. He lightly tapped the brakes, controlling the speed at 170 kilometers per hour, which was not his usual maximum launch speed but adjusted to accommodate a 10-kilogram weight reduction. The moment Feng He's front wheels touched the jump point, he decisively released the brakes and pressed the accelerator with his right foot, maintaining about a 25 opening. Bang! The front wheels lifted off the ground, and Feng He's vehicle soared into the air. Su Che felt a sensation of weightlessness, with the seatbelt tightening around his chest. For a professional driver like him, jumping was a routine maneuver, but his experience on the track was still limited. The unfamiliarity brought by the increased tire weight was amplifying, causing a bead of cold sweat to form on his forehead. In the brief moment of being airborne, Su Che keenly sensed something was off. Feng He's pitch angle was greater than usual, and the rear of the vehicle was noticeably lower. The heavy tires altered the distribution of the vehicle's rotational inertia, making it difficult to control its posture in the air. Instinctively, he pushed the steering wheel forward, attempting to correct the vehicle's posture through the air resistance of the front wheels, but the effect was minimal. Bang! The rear wheels struck the asphalt surface first, the sound of the tires hitting the ground resonating like thunder across the track. Then the front wheels landed, causing the entire race car to bounce violently. A sudden feeling of panic gripped Su Che. The heavy tires of Feng He created uneven ground pressure upon landing. The ground pressure on the left rear wheel was completely asymmetrical to that of the right rear wheel. This asymmetrical load instantly disrupted the dynamic balance of Feng He's body. If he were an experienced professional driver, he might have been able to resolve such an imbalance with a quick reaction, but unfortunately, he was not. He panicked. There were only 80 meters left to the right turn at the end of the jump. Su Che had to complete his braking and steering preparations within this distance. This should have been simple, provided that Feng He landed smoothly. He pressed the brake pedal hard, and the ABS system worked frantically. However, the heavier tires diminished braking efficiency. The stopping distance extended by about 5 meters compared to what he expected. That 5 meters meant he and Feng He could not turn at the ideal entry point. It's over. A sense of dread washed over Su Che, his mind going blank. Faced with the approaching turn, he was forced to turn early. At that moment, Feng had not fully recovered from the left and right imbalance of the rear wheels, and she began to lose traction. The swing angle of the rear increased. Suche quickly countersteered, but it was too late. Feng He's body had entered an uncontrollable skid, the rear wheels completely losing grip, and the entire car began to spin 360 degrees. The usually calm and silent AI in the cockpit seemed to have realized what was about to happen. All protective measures in the cockpit instantly activated, securing Suche firmly within. Feng He. Suche shouted in panic as his body was enveloped in the protective casing. Everything spun around him, and he only saw the wall outside the track rushing towards him. Bang. Chapter 50. Who is the champion? Xingming, you've really disappointed me. I've put so much effort into your modifications and spent so much money, yet you didn't even place in the city championship. I'm sorry, Master. It's just that Xingming is too useless. I'm not going to make it hard for you. Let's go to the contract office and terminate our agreement. And go our separate ways. Wait, can we give Xingming another chance? She'll definitely work hard next time. There's no chance left. Her hand was forcefully shaken off, and Xingming stared blankly at the man's retreating figure. Fear and helplessness engulfed her like a gaping abyss. Master, don't go. You said you wouldn't leave me. She reached out her hand, but couldn't grasp the man's clothing. She stumbled forward, trying to catch up, but no matter how hard she chased, there was always an invisible wall between her and the man. Her feet hurt terribly. Each step felt like stepping on blades. She gradually lost strength and fell to the ground. Through her tear-blurred vision, the man finally disappeared. Master! Master! Xingming opened her eyes, soft white light dispelling the cold darkness. What came into view was a strange ceiling, and the air was filled with the scent of maintenance fluid. Maintenance fluid typically only appears in treatment and maintenance centers. However, the overwhelming sadness still lingered in her heart. Xingming stared blankly at the ceiling, unable to process anything for a long time. Xingming? It was only when Su Chen's voice rang out that her hollow eyes suddenly regained focus, like sparks erupting from ashes. She turned her head and saw Su Chen leaning beside the bed, his hair a mess like a bird's nest, looking as if he had just woken up. His hand was tightly holding hers, seemingly for a long time. The coldness inside her quickly receded like a tide. Warmth began to spread from their clasped hands throughout her body, and her stiff limbs finally regained feeling. Su Chen had stayed up late the night before and had only woken up when he heard Xingming speak. Xingming, you're finally awake. He looked at the girl whose face was devoid of color, feeling a sharp pang in his heart, and tightened his grip on her hand. How do you feel? Is there anywhere uncomfortable? Xingming blinked, her gaze falling on Su Chen's slightly haggard face and the bloodshot in his eyes. She gently lifted her other hand and finally touched Su Chen's face. In that moment of contact, the nightmare and reality drew a line. A reassuring smile spread across Xingming's face. Master, have you been by my side all along? Her voice was soft, weak but slightly hoarse. Yes. Su Chen let Xingming's hand caress his stubbled face and nodded. The doctor said you were given a special medicine, but when you wake up, you might feel disoriented and scared, so I stayed with you. That's great. Xingming moved her lips. Tears from the nightmare slipped down her eyelashes. So it was just a dream. Dreams really are the opposite. Why are you crying again? Did you have a nightmare? Su Chen hurriedly grabbed a wet wipe to clean the tears off Xingming's face. I didn't have a nightmare, Xingming said, slightly looking away and pouting. I dreamed that Masta wanted to sign a spiritual contract with me, but I know it was just a dream. How could Masta casually sign a spiritual contract with a mech girl? Sign it. Su Chen immediately replied, let's sign it now. Sign my foot. Queen pushed the door open and stepped in. Her gaze swept over Xingming's bare feet, and seeing that the wounds had mostly healed, she subtly relaxed her tense shoulders. Then, she shot a sideways glance at Su Chen. Xingming just woke up, and her body is still very weak. You want to sign a spiritual contract? What? Are you afraid she'll run away? Why not just tie her to you instead? Su Chen chuckled awkwardly, not daring to speak. After all, Queen was his creditor, and he truly had no idea what the process of signing a spiritual contract entailed. Sister Queen, it's fine. Xingming propped herself up, wanting to defend Su Chen, but was immediately pressed back down by Queen. The core of a mech girl can only be analyzed once in a lifetime, which is very taxing on the mind. You should focus on recovering first. It won't take long. She reached out and tapped Xingming on the forehead, saying irritably, both the mech girl and the driver are so impatient. No wonder you two make a pair. After that, she pulled out a league daily report and placed it on the bedsheet in front of Su Chen. Here, the results of the city championship are out. So it's out. Su Chen moved the newspaper aside and smiled. I don't really care about the results, as long as Xingming is fine. Queen clicked her tongue. Just because you don't care doesn't mean your mech girl doesn't. Su Chen instinctively glanced at Xingming, who was staring intently at the newspaper in a daze. Even though she had a tire blowout near the finish line, her speed had drastically reduced in the last stretch, which undoubtedly affected the results. The organizers wouldn't give her extra points just because she had a tire blowout. That would be unfair to the other competitors. So, He had no expectations for the results of yesterday's city championship and felt no regret. Both he and Xingming had done their best and had already burned their energy. Moreover, the lack of feedback from the star cloud in his mind indicated that they indeed hadn't placed in the top 3. However, seeing that Xingming seemed to care about the results, Su Chen still opened the league daily report dated yesterday. What caught his eye was a line of large letters occupying half the layout. Bin Hao City Championship upset. The champion is actually, below, it was a photo of the podium. Yu Ming, Chasing Shadow, and Su Che stood in 2nd and 3rd place, while the champion spot was empty. What does this mean? Su Chen was stunned. Could it be that there was no champion for this race? He continued to read. Hello everyone. I am the host of the City Championship, Turkey Brother. This competition adopted brand new rules and a new track, making it one of the most challenging City Championship tracks we've encountered in years. Some newcomers withdrew early from the race, and even seasoned players were forced to leave before reaching the finish line. Even professional drivers were not immune to mistakes. In such a fiercely contested match, a pair of competitors emerged as champions, making their debut as newcomers. The drivers seemed to possess extensive track experience, showcasing driving skills that rivaled those of professional racers. His machine companion displayed remarkable bravery and fearlessness, embodying the spirit of competition and the honor of the track, even dragging the wheels to the finish line despite 2 blown tires. Indeed, those present and those who watched the live broadcast already know the answer. The champions of this city championship are driver Su Chen and his machine companion, Xingming, although they were unable to receive the champion's trophy due to injuries. I believe this is inconsequential. Trophies may gather dust, and tracks may be renewed. But only the wheels that have rolled over thorns in pursuit of dreams can leave an indelible mark in time. Finally, congratulations once again to Su Chen and Xingming for winning the championship of this city tournament. A drop of tear fell onto the newspaper. Su Chen looked up and found that Xingming had somehow come to his side. Her bright blue eyes were filled with large tears. Master, she said, her voice trembling in disbelief, cautiously as if touching an unattainable dream. Is this real? Are we champions? Before Su Chen could respond, Queen answered the question first. She snapped her fingers. At the entrance, Jessica rushed in, panting and carrying the heavy champion trophy. With a thud, she placed it on the table. Congratulations, Mr. Su Chen. And Miss Xingming, Queen said with a squinting smile. You are the champions. Chapter 51. Little Pill winning the championship was indeed a delightful surprise worth celebrating. However, Su Chen couldn't quite understand why he and Xingming were the champions. How could Yu Ming and Su Che perform so poorly? They both had blown tires. Yet these professional racers handed the championship over to them? Could it be that Chasing Shadow and Wind Crane also had blown tires? Flipping the newspaper to the other side, he quickly discovered the reason. Professional racer Yu Ming from City K stated, the track design is outrageous, completely disregarding the competitors. I will never participate in any events in Binzhou City again. The detailed report below explained that after Yu Ming and Chasing Shadow left the gravel section, they reduced their speed to around 170 km per hour to avoid tire blowouts, ultimately achieving an average speed of 208 km over a race time of 72 minutes and 7 seconds, just slightly behind Su Chen and Xingming's average speed of 209 km and race time of 71 minutes and 58 seconds. After reading Yu Ming and Chasing Shadow's report, Su Chen felt a sense of shame. After all, Yu Ming had protected Chasing Shadow, while he hadn't protected Xingming. He awkwardly glanced at Xingming, who was reading the newspaper beside him, but the girl merely shook her cat ears and smiled sweetly at him. Not knowing the details of the report would have left him confused, but after reading it, everything made sense. Xingming's speed was 63, Chasing Shadow's was 62. With the difference in their explosive speed being evident, Chasing Shadow's explosive speed was 66, while Xingming's was only 39. However, this urban championship did not feature many curves, which hindered the performance of the vehicle's cornering speed characteristics. Additionally, the need to conserve tires affected the overall performance. On a track with more turns, he and his partner would likely not have been outmatched by their competitors. As for the professional drivers from the T3 team, there were many regrets. A leading driver from the T3 team mentioned that a tire mix-up caused their mistake, and there might have been external interference, which is currently under investigation. The two drivers made an error while navigating the last jump and sharp right turn combination. Nonetheless, as professional drivers, their handling of danger was superior to that of amateur drivers, and they did not crash in a way that rendered them unable to continue. After hitting the barrier, the resilient driver managed to continue racing. They returned to the track, but their mistakes cost them precious time, preventing them from competing for the championship. Ultimately, their average speed was 205 km per hour, taking 73 minutes and 11 seconds. The attributes of this racing machine were unfamiliar to the observer, but given the various muscular features during its performance, it must be quite durable. Although there were many dramatic moments, Winning the championship felt well-deserved for both him and his partner. He set down the newspaper, feeling a mix of emotions. However, there would certainly not be such good fortune next time. Victory should never rely on the mistakes of others. Meanwhile, his partner was completely absorbed in her own world, holding a large gilded trophy, rubbing her cheek against it, and occasionally giving it a kiss. To her, this trophy was more than just a symbol of victory. It was a memento of their first win together, with both their names engraved on it, shining bright like the sun. The next matters could wait. This was a reward for the Urban Championship. Queen gave Jessica a glance, who sighed and went to drag in 2 suitcases. One suitcase opened to reveal neatly stacked cash, while the other contained 3 basic Star Essence items and a capsule-like medicine. 100,000. Queen crossed her arms, pouting slightly. Honestly, the prize money for an official competition is a bit stingy, but the other items are decent. The 3 basic Star Essences were just enough for her partner to upgrade from rank C to rank B. While regarding the capsule, she picked up a red pill from the suitcase. This is a training memory pill made by Star God Technology. It provides a segment of training memories from top-tier models to help enhance a specific ability. This particular pill boosts explosive power. The observer stared at the small pill in shock. Experience pill? What experience pill? Queen rolled her eyes. This thing is powerful but shouldn't be consumed excessively. No more than 1 per month. Since the pill contains training memories from other models, it can affect the one taking it. Overconsumption can lead to memory confusion. A monthly interval is safe, with minimal mental stress, allowing enough time to integrate the memories. The observer understood. When he was young, he struggled academically and often dreamed of borrowing the brain of a top student. This little pill and the idea of borrowing brains are quite similar, serving as a form of enlightening experience in another sense. There won't be any side effects, right? Su Chun took the pill and could clearly see photons resembling a DNA spiral structure rotating and flickering inside. Taking a normal dose has no side effects. Queen said confidently, "This thing is very expensive. You can only get it by participating in official competitions or certain auctions. Don't worry about taking it, otherwise the machine girl will take too long to improve her performance. Have you taken it too?" Su Chen looked at Queen. "Of course," Queen said, her brow slightly furrowing. Then suddenly tilting her head. When was the last time I took this training pill?" Su Chen stared at Queen's face, narrowing his eyes. Queen had mentioned that her memory seemed to have some issues. Could it be related to this training memory pill? Generally, it's difficult for drivers and machine girls to get this pill. But for a wealthy organization like the Night Voice Group, is it really that hard? Assuming a monthly dose is safe, would they administer it to Queen at that safe dosage? In any case, he didn't plan to let Xingming take the pill. He would sell it at an auction and use the money for modification materials for Xingming. He couldn't trust unfamiliar things for Xingming's safety. He only believed in his own modifications. "All right, Queen, let us not dwell on it." He interrupted her memories, fearing to trigger something bad in her mind. "Now that I'm the champion of the tournament, and also a modifier, I have a bit of say in this." Queen's eyes lit up at his words, and she stopped fixating on the training pill, instead gazing intently at Su Chun, reflecting on their first meeting. She was simply curious about Su Chen's identity as both a modifier and a driver. In her circle, there was no one who held both titles. This curiosity led her to visit Su Chun's modification shop. After that, she felt a special connection to him, like a ship lost in fog finally finding a lighthouse. It was a feeling of kinship. She had consulted many other modifiers, both unknown and famous. Yet, all those modifiers deemed the Night Voice's modification plan nearly perfect and expressed admiration and recognition for her modifications. Only Su Chen raised doubts. She still remembered his expression upon seeing the Night Voice's modification plan. First, he was taken aback, then furrowed his brow for a long time. And when his brow relaxed, the seriousness on his face transformed into a disdainful sneer. Su Chen didn't care how impressive these modifications were or how much they cost. He only cared about how she could be more comfortable, how she could be freer, and what she liked more. So, Queen kept a close watch on Su Chun and Xingming's developments. When they were homeless, she immediately appeared before them like an NPC. Now, Su Chun was finally ready to confront the modification team of the Night's Voice. She had been looking forward to this moment, but hesitated, worrying about Su Chen's decision. "Are you ready?" "Those are all recognized masters in the circle." "Masters?" Su Chun was speechless, even wanting to laugh. He was the top racing modifier in Huaxia. Although in this world, he was nothing. But to transform the Queen into its current form, what kind of masters could they be? In the modification circle, there is only one truth. Technology is the hard truth. "No need to prepare," Su Chen said to Bandak. "We can start anytime." Chapter 52, So-Called Fairness, Combined, Northern Wolf Headquarters. T2 Team Activity Area Office. "Boss, have you finished watching the video? What do you think?" Liyini raised her head, still shocked. "Impressive." She gave a thumbs up. "Are you sure Su Chun and Xingming are newcomers? They're amazing." Both their skills and personal qualities are outstanding, especially that mech girl named Xingming. The image of the mech girl racing down the track with 2 wheels in tow flashed in her mind, sending shivers down her spine. This kid really treats the city championship like a world-class competition. Right? Yuming sat down across from Li Yini, letting out a sigh. After seeing the results, both Zuiying and I were unconvinced, but after watching the video, we were completely convinced. You know how stubborn Zuiying is. It's rare for her to be quiet about her opponents. Before, she acted all high and mighty in front of T1 ace Dongzi. Su Chun and Xingming indeed have great potential. I will report this to the manager. Perhaps they could become the last piece of our team puzzle? A glimmer of hope ignited in Li Yini's heart. The Northern Wolf T2 urgently needed to perform well in provincial competitions, whether in team races or individual races. If they were completely crushed by T1 again, they might face a ruling from the Northern Wolf Club's arbitration committee. Typically, there are 2 outcomes. Either they get disbanded, with some eliminated and some sent to T1 as main or substitute players, or they are all dissolved to seek other paths. As the captain, Li Yini dreamed of the T2 team making it through, aiming for higher peaks, and providing a bright future for each member. However, the harsh reality was that in recent years, T2 had been on a downward trend. Individual and team points were just shy of the mark, unable to even touch the threshold for provincial competitions, and the gap with T1 was widening. The rule for participating in the provincial Canamu Lake Rally is individual competition points must reach 12 and team competition points must reach 64. Winning the city championship earns only 1 point. Winning the City King competition earns 2 points, and there are 5 provincial qualifiers, with the top 3 in each earning 3, 2, and 1 points respectively. Both individual and team must meet the standards, neither can be missing. Now, T2 was missing 1 member. If this gap is not filled, can the team reach the required points? That's simply wishful thinking. This time, Yuming brought Chasing Shadow to participate in the city championship in Binzhou, not only to obtain the blessing of the stars, but also for that crucial point. He had prepared thoroughly before the competition. With only 1 opponent to watch out for, Su Che. It should have been a sure-win situation, but who would have thought that Su Chun and Xingming, the Dark Horses, would unexpectedly take the championship with their bold and stunning performance? Is it hard to accept? It truly is. But thinking about how Su Chun might become his buddy, the frustration in Yuming's heart melted away, replaced by strong anticipation. All right, boss. I'll be waiting for your good news. Make sure to talk to the manager. Yuming stood up, thinking about the future that T2 might activate as a result, and couldn't help but smile broadly. Chasing Shadow and I will head to training now. Other cities will also hold their city championships soon, and we will quickly secure that point for this year. Fine, you go ahead. Watching the door close gently, Li Yini took a deep breath. Li Pingji voluntarily left the team to become a substitute at T1. Looking back now, could it be a blessing in disguise? At least, the position is now vacant. The strength and mentality displayed by Su Chun and Xingming are far more dazzling than Li Pingji's. The fresh blood and fighting spirit brought by the newcomers might truly activate the lethargic Wolf T2. Recruiting new team members requires a report. Li Yini had already thought about the wording. The advantages of Su Chun and Xingming are too numerous and obvious, making this report incredibly easy to write. However, just as she was about to hit the send key, there was another knock at the door. The club manager, Zhang Baochuan, walked in with an overly enthusiastic smile on his face. Manager, I was just looking for you. Your timing is perfect. Li Yini prepared to show the manager the footage first, but when she looked up, she saw a young man with glaring yellow hair behind the manager, hands in his pockets and a face full of impatience. Captain Li, I also have good news, great news. Without waiting for a response, Zhang Baochuan pushed the young man forward until he was standing in front of Li Yini's desk. Our Northern Wolf T2 is missing a player, right? Here, my nephew, who is placed in the top 3 of several underground competitions, is definitely a potential star. Huh. Li Yini's gaze shifted between the young man's fierce face and the manager's smiling face. After a few seconds of shock, she suddenly realized that this young man was the reserve player the manager had forced onto her. Huh. The young man said arrogantly, joining your Northern Wolf is a blessing for you, so don't act ungrateful. Hurry up and get my paperwork done. Su Che, you have disappointed me greatly. In the office of the Star Crown Club, the atmosphere was oppressive. Su Che sat across from the desk, facing the scrutinizing gaze of the man. He lowered his head, twisting his fingers, and after a long while, he finally stammered out, I'm sorry, brother, I made a mistake, it was my fault. It's not your fault. Could it be mine? Su Che's brother, the ace of Star Crown T1, and also the owner of the Star Crown Club, Su Lin, slammed the table loudly. Hearing the sound of the table being slammed, Feng He outside the office was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Yet, all he could do was press against the blinds, watching helplessly as Su Che faced criticism at the desk. Do you know, my dear brother, to ensure your success and build momentum for you, I modified the course under pressure this time. 50 kilometers of gravel road is nothing for you and Feng He. Such stable machine girls. But you ruined everything. Su Che looked up in shock, his eyes first filled with confusion, then ignited by a surge of anger. Why did you do this? You are destroying the fairness of the competition. Fairness? Su Lin scoffed, completely indifferent to Su Che's fury. He leisurely pulled out a cigarette, lit it, and casually blew a smoke ring, letting it slowly disperse in the stagnant air. You have a machine girl that others can only dream of for a lifetime. Is that fair? You were born with the best training resources. Is that fair? Ridiculous. Naive. When you reach my position, you'll realize that the fairness of the competition is just a joke. Argumentative. Su Che's voice turned cold. Different backgrounds are destiny. But at least the stage for competition should be clean. Your actions are stifling the competition in Binzhou. He stared intensely at the tires of Feng He. You had them changed, didn't you? Yes. Su Lin nodded, flicking off the ash. If you hadn't changed that tire, I wouldn't have made a mistake. Su Che clenched his fists, gritting his teeth. Even without that 50 kilometers of gravel road, I could still be a match for that guy Yu Ming. Su Che. Su Lin's voice suddenly rose. For your safety, I had you change to more durable tires. But I never calculated you'd be so incompetent that you couldn't even handle a little extra weight. He shrugged, his contempt and mockery evident on his face. It's simple for me. In the end, it's your skills that are lacking. Trash is trash, like mud that can't stick to a wall. You think you can surpass me? You, such a useless person, want to be the captain of T3? Su Che, oh Su Che, Su Lin elongated the last syllable, crushing the burnt-out cigarette but harshly into the ashtray, making a sharp sound that seemed to extinguish the last glimmer of hope in Su Che. But who told you to be my brother? He changed his tone to a cold one. From now on, I won't interfere in your matters. But if you keep failing to achieve the results a top ace should have, as your brother, I'll have to take some extreme measures. For example, I'll get you a better machine girl that truly deserves the Xinguan team. Now, Su Lin pointed to the door. Get out. Su Che walked out of the office with his head down. As he looked at Feng He running towards him, a bitter smile appeared on his face. Where was the spotlighted genius youth? In front of Su Lin, he was just a puppet, manipulated at will, suppressed at any moment. All his life, he had lived in the shadow of his brother's dazzling honors. He desperately tried to prove himself, but all he received were relentless mockery and denial time and again. It was Feng He's companionship that gradually helped him step out of the shadow and reignite his fighting spirit. But now, Su Lin actually had the thought of replacing Feng He. He couldn't accept it. Looking at the concerned and worried expression on Feng He's face, Su Che clenched his fists. He couldn't imagine how devastated he would be if Su Lin replaced Feng He next time due to not meeting the requirements. Master Feng He said nothing. She simply held Su Che in her arms, her warm and strong embrace enveloping him. She knew Su Che liked this. Every time she did this, it calmed him down. Crane him. I want to eat the tomato scrambled eggs you make. Okay, I'll make them for you when we get home. Feng He's voice was as gentle as a feather, but she added, you can't be sad after eating them, okay? She gently stroked Su Che's back, just like the countless times he had buried his face in her embrace and cried before. All right, Su Che responded in a muffled voice, tightly wrapping his arms around Feng He's waist, burying his face deeper into that reassuring warmth. As his tense nerves gradually relaxed, he wouldn't cry anymore. He was no longer that little boy who would hide away and shed tears after being scolded. There was only one outcome between him and Su Lin. Either he would be completely crushed, or he would break free from this cocoon and tear apart the shadows. Queen had already scheduled the modification team. However, that was 3 days away. During these 3 days, Su Chen happened to have quite a few things to do. For example, sell the memory training capsules, acquire modification materials to upgrade Star Dream, and also, Star Dream could still receive one more blessing from the Star God. Once Star Dream was ready to go, he would take her immediately. At this moment, he lay on the hospital bed next to Star Dream, resting with his eyes closed. The deep starry nebula in his mind slowly spun again. A new star quietly emerged from it, emitting a soft glow. His thoughts sank into it, and in an instant, a torrent of information surged through, ultimately condensing into a line of flickering starry characters. Unlocking the talent. Heart of the God, Chapter 53, Heart of the God. Hand of the God, Eye of the God. Su Chen felt like he was about to become a god. But isn't it time to consider something like a divine spear or divine tongue? If not, a divine kidney would also be great. So, what does the heart of the god do? Su Chen touched the position of his heart. He could clearly feel that his heart had changed. It was as if his flesh and blood had transformed into a powerful V8 engine. Buzz. A faint ringing in his ears came. His vision suddenly blurred and swayed. The silent starry nebula deep in his mind suddenly expanded, bursting into a dazzling star map. The star map continued to spread, with billions of stars twinkling within, gathering and outlining one stunning constellation after another. When Su Chen's thoughts curiously touched one of the constellations, Launch Control 1. Launch Start Specialist Level 1 to Level 5. Increases launch acceleration for per level, max level 20. 2. Clutch Control Level 1 to Level 3. Reduces tire slippage at launch. 3. Launch Preload Level 1 to Level 3. Optimizes suspension preload response. Torque Distribution 1. Start Stability Level 1 to Level 3. Improves starting direction stability. 2. Perfect Start Max. Not activated the art of launch control, achieving unity between man and machine. Requires expert level launch control at level 5, along with clutch control, starting preload, and torque distribution, all at level 3. Su Chen was stunned. What a skill tree. He shifted his focus to other constellations. Just as he thought, they were all skill trees. Cornering Control 1. Traction Braking Level 1 to Level 3. Enhances deceleration efficiency when entering a corner. 2. Apex Control Level 1 to Level 3. Increases minimum speed through corners. 3. Drift Control Level 1 to Level 3. Reduces speed loss during drifting. 4. Shoulder Utilization Level 1 to Level 3. More stability when using the shoulder. 5. Cornering Control Max. Not activated Master of Corners. Achieving unity between man and machine. Requires traction braking, apex control, drift control, and shoulder utilization, all at level 3. Drifting Techniques 1. Handbrake Drift, Master 2. Power Transition Drift, Veteran 3. Brake Drift, Master 4. Clutch Kick Drift, Veteran 5. Scandinavian Flick, Veteran, Special Techniques 1. Wall Ride Overtake, Beginner 2. Blade Overtake, Veteran 3. Drainage Ditch Cornering, Beginner 4. Death Kiss, Beginner 5. Side-by-Side Dual Wheel Driving, Beginner, Mecha Driving Series, Mecha Combat Series. All 6 constellations were skill trees. The first 4 constellations almost covered all technical maneuvers in racing, including some practical and purely theoretical techniques. For example, wall ride overtaking. He had only seen that in movies. He had never seen anyone accomplish it in reality. But what about the last 2? Are there really mechas in this world? Su Chen's mouth twitched. He suddenly remembered that a logistics mech girl had mentioned during his shopping at Star God while that there had once been an alien invasion, during which human drivers controlled mechas formed from mech girls to battle the aliens, including those 4-star gods, who were still floating in space hunting alien beings. So, this world does have mechas. However, he might not need them at all. This golden finger is getting more and more impressive. Su Chen sighed and shook his head. So, the skill tree is here. What about skill points? Just as this thought crossed his mind, the center of the nebula stirred again. Amid the 6 constellations, a crimson star appeared, pulsing like a heartbeat, with a distorted number 2 gradually becoming clear at its core. 2 skill points? Su Chen pondered. Skill point acquisition 1. Official race champions, runners-up, and third place will earn 1 to 9 skill points based on the scale and difficulty of the competition. Already earned 1 skill point for winning the city championship. Cannot be earned again. 2. Upgrading mechas grants 1 skill point per level. Information about the sources of skill points surfaced in Su Chen's mind. He matched the skill points gained from upgrading Star Dream and winning the city championship. To enhance the control ability from level 1 to level 2 only requires 1 skill point. However, special techniques like wall riding overtaking require a full 3 points to advance from novice to expert. In the long run, with so many competitions ahead and Star Dream needing to level up multiple times, combined with the state threshold of the mecha girls preventing any one of them from participating in competitions frequently, he would inevitably need alternatives. Therefore, it turns out that the skill points obtained from competitions and mecha girls would ultimately be surplus. After all, he doesn't T-pilot a mecha. Su Chen pondered for a moment and tentatively allocated a skill point to the starting control skill, upgrading it to ejection start expert level. He was curious about how this ability would help him acquire more knowledge. Would it suddenly enhance his memory or directly modify his body? Suddenly, as he upgraded to level 2, everything went dark for a moment. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in a cockpit, not of a mecha girl, but of a dual-seat standard rally car from his past life. He was sitting in the driver's seat. The cold touch of the steering wheel made it hard for him to distinguish reality from illusion. Had he traveled back to Earth? How could just allocating a point bring him back? No. Su Chen wailed internally. He couldn't bear to leave Star Dream. There were no soft and cozy cat girls on Earth. Without the warm company of a cat girl, he felt he would perish. He immediately tried to get out of the car to lie down on a highway, but the door was firmly held shut by a hand. Turning to look, he was stunned. No way is that old Su. The person in the passenger seat was someone he recognized, the undisputed king of the racing scene on Earth. He had even built a car for this person, and after an accident, he had brought flowers to pay his respects. So, he hadn't returned to Earth, but rather to paradise? Today your goal is to master the ejection start. If you can't get it right, you'll stay in this driver's seat until you die? Old Su's tone was not like that of a long-lost friend, but more like a reprimand for a student. Moreover, It seemed that old Su didn't recognize him. Old Su, it's me. I used to be the chief modifier for your team. For over a decade, I modified your cars, you don't remember? Su Chen hurriedly tried to reveal his identity. However, his hand passed right through old Su. He stared at his own hand, feeling his enthusiasm doused with cold water. It turned out they weren't meeting again after all. Unwilling, he reached out again, trying to grab old Su's hand that was holding the door. Still, it passed through. Old Su beside him remained expressionless, his gaze locked on the still racetrack ahead like a hawk. There was no sound of wind, no roar of engines. The sunlight was frozen on the leaves, and the falling leaves hovered midair. Su Chen took a deep breath. He understood. The heart of the divine was not only a skill tree, but also a learning space. The so-called allocation of skill points was a means to let him enter an independent space for learning, safely completing the originally dangerous learning process in the form of a simulator. At the same time, in this space, he would have a coach, a manifestation of the strongest racer as recognized by his subconscious. That is, the old Su, once the ace driver of the top club in his country. With the help of the heart of God, he would gain the lifelong knowledge of this ace driver. Chapter 54. You can push me. The engine speed dropped. What are you doing? Can't you control it properly even with something this simple? Seriously, you're moving so slowly. You might as well be driving a tractor. What are you afraid of? Just go for it. It won't kill you. After an hour of training, half an hour of criticism, Su Chen felt dazed. He thought his skills in launch control were quite good. After all, the standards given to him by the heart of God were upgraded from expert level. But in front of old Su, his performance was nothing short of terrible. Whenever there was something unsatisfactory, the car would immediately reset to the starting point, repeating this process indefinitely until one of his maneuvers was approved by old Su. Su Chen had lost track of how long he had been in this space and how many times he had performed the launch control. His mind was starting to feel hazy. This time was not bad. After completing all the operations for a launch, old Su finally nodded. Compared to your past self, your current launch control can at least increase the car's speed by 4. Don't underestimate this 4. In any race, even a slight advantage can determine your final ranking. Alright, class dismissed, goodbye. As the words fell, when Su Chen came to his senses, old Su had disappeared, the cockpit had vanished, and the nebula was gone. He was back by Xingming's hospital bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. The clock on the wall showed that only a minute or two had passed. Xingming was eating a nutritional drink with her left hand and a special pack of snacks for machine girls with her right, crunching away while the TV across from her showed footage of a race on a certain track. The host was passionately commenting. The launch control of contestant number 12 is very skilled. It seems he and his machine girl have put in a lot of effort after the last race's defeat. Racing is like this. Both talent and hard work are indispensable. Launch control? Su Chen's vision darkened, and a wave of intense discomfort surged from his stomach. He flipped over and rushed to the restroom. Ugh, Master? Xingming looked confused at the restroom, her cat ears perked up and quivering, her mouth slightly open. I'm fine, Su Chen said, washing his face as he came out of the restroom, helplessly adding, just suddenly feeling a bit nauseous. Are you really okay? Xingming patted the edge of the bed. If Master's stomach is uncomfortable, you can come lie down. I'll help you massage it. That's all right. Su Chen glanced at the time. It was time to go. This machine girl treatment center did not belong to a certain organization, but was the largest treatment center in the region. However, the treatment machine girls here were very busy, and tasks like applying and changing medication required him, as a family member, to help Xingming complete. Yesterday, the treatment-type machine girl had already demonstrated the procedure, and today it was time for the pilot to take charge personally. Su Chen's gaze instinctively swept toward Xingming. She was sitting cross-legged on the hospital bed. Her loose hospital pants rolled up slightly due to her position, revealing her slender ankles. Against the backdrop of her pale skin, large, glaring purple-black cracks abruptly caught his attention. These cracks were surrounded by noticeable redness and swelling, some even extending to her knees. Although they were not as severe as yesterday, they looked particularly pitiful on her smooth skin. Su Chen's heart felt as if it had been gently twisted by something. He approached the bed with the medicine box, unconsciously softening his voice. Today, I'll apply the medicine for you. Xingming was taken aback for a moment, following Su Chen's gaze to look down. Finally noticing the exposed cracks, she instinctively curled her toes. The cracks were no longer as painful as yesterday. Actually, I can manage it myself. No need to trouble you. Master. She felt a bit embarrassed, her cat ears drooping slightly. That is not acceptable. Su Chen said sternly. This is a task given to me as your guardian by the nurse. How could I let you do it yourself? Come sit by the bed and put your feet down. Perhaps it was the undeniable tone in Su Chen's voice, or perhaps the word guardian stirred something in Xingming's heart. In any case, she obediently sat by the bed, her perfectly proportioned calves hanging down. However, due to the height of the hospital bed, her toes were slightly suspended and did not touch the ground. Su Chen knelt on one knee on the cold floor beside the bed. a position that allowed him to clearly see the side of Xingming's ankle. Remembering the instructions for the treatment-type machine girl, he reached out his fingers and lightly touched the edge of the cracks, feeling an unusual warmth at his fingertips. Does it hurt? He looked up at Xingming, his brow slightly furrowed. Xingming trembled slightly at the cool touch of Su Chen's fingertip, her toes curling tighter. With Master so close, his worried expression made her feel a bit warm in the face. She averted her gaze slightly and murmured, It's okay. Su Chen didn't reply, quickly taking out a special ointment from the medicine box. He wasn't sure what the ointment was made of, but the liquid in the bottle emitted a faint glow. In his impression, only highly radioactive heavy metal materials could shine like that. However, since it was meant for treating machine girls, and he was applying it himself, it must be safe. It might be a bit cool, he reminded softly. He then dipped a cotton swab into the ointment, gently supporting Xingming's heel with his palm. Can you lift it a bit? Meow? Xingming held her breath, her body stiffening slightly as she lifted her injured ankle, resting it on Su Chen's warm palm. When the cotton swab, coated with the ointment, gently touched that sensitive skin, a strong wave of stimulation made her gasp. Her body instinctively wanted to shrink back, but her ankle was securely and very gently supported by Su Chen. Still say it doesn't hurt? Su Chen became even more cautious and gentle, the cotton swab only lightly brushing against the cracks. Xingming looked down, only able to see the dark hair on Su Chen's head and his focused profile. A warm breath brushed lightly against her ankle, making the skin feel as if a small flame had been ignited, and the heat quickly spread. She felt her heart racing as if it might leap out of her chest. With all the warmth in her body seemingly rushing toward the foot that was being cradled by Su Chen, Xingming found it strange. Clearly, she hadn't felt this way when the treatment-type mech girl applied medicine to her yesterday. Why was it different now that Masta was here? She bit her lip, her fingers unconsciously gripping the bed sheets, the knuckles turning slightly pale. A warm current, mixed with embarrassment, tension, and an oddly comfortable sensation, surged through her limbs. She wanted to retreat, but was inexplicably drawn to the gentle touch and the warmth radiating from Su Chen's palm. She could only remain still, feeling the cool ointment gradually melt into her wound and seep into her skin. The ward was very quiet, with only the host's voice from the television chattering away. Contestant 73, Ferrati, and his mech girl Phantom have perfectly glided through the hairpin turn. Such smooth operation relies on precise judgment of engine RPM and tire grip. The driver and mech girl coordinate exceptionally well. What? The driver and mech girl are actually in a romantic relationship? Haha, no wonder. This kind of harmonious cooperation is the cornerstone of victory. In reality, there was only the faint rustling sound of a cotton swab gliding over delicate skin. Yet, the air between the two seemed to thicken. Hey, Masta. When will we sign the soul contract? Once your foot is better, right? The soul contract needs to be sworn under the statue of the star god, doesn't it? You're not in a position to do that. Su Chen's heart was also unsettled. He cradled Xingming's petite foot in his palm, the arch gently fitting against his hand. Through her smooth and delicate skin, he could feel her warm vitality. If it weren't for the cracks, it would be a perfect work of art. He could clearly sense every tiny tremor from Xingming, each time her toes curled slightly in response to his touch. In his previous life as a chief modifier, he was never short of women around him. As a man of high status, women were merely a pastime for him. His aspirations had always been in his career, but facing Xingming was different. He felt an indescribable flutter in his heart. For the first time, he wanted to protect a girl. For the first time, he wanted to give her a happy future. For the first time, he wanted to strive for a girl. Masta, there's a wheelchair. You can push me. Su Chen looked up, his gaze meeting Xingming's eyes. Those beautiful, deep blue eyes were now glistening, shrouded in a layer of mist. Her cheeks were flushed, resembling a glowing sunset. I want to sign the soul contract. Xingming quickly averted her gaze, pulling her newly treated little feet back under the blanket. She could barely squeeze out a whisper. Is that okay? Meow? Sure. Without a second thought, Su Chen replied, I'll go prepare the wheelchair right now. He hurriedly put away the ointment and cotton swabs into the medicine box, then went to the nearby storage room to fetch the folded wheelchair. The soul contract consists of 3 steps. First, they must register at the Mech Protection Association. Then, they must swear an oath under the statue of the star god. At last, the machine girl extracts her core consciousness, and the pilot signs a mental contract with her. Honestly, this process feels somewhat similar to getting married, doesn't it? Su Chen glanced at the girl on the hospital bed, her gentle gaze directed at him, and inexplicably felt a bit flustered. Chapter 55. Why don't you go steal it? The Machine Protection Association in Binzhou City was also crowded early in the morning. When Su Chen pushed Xingming to the entrance of the association, he noticed a large crowd gathered there, and he could vaguely hear the sounds of a heated argument. The voices sounded quite familiar. As he got closer with Xingming, the argument became clearer. Damn it, what are you pulling? If you want to terminate the contract, then go ahead. Do you think I can't find someone better? The machine girl I had a contract with before, Xingming, is 1,000 times better than you. She can win championships, and you are just a performance waste. Ms. Wang, please calm down. Insulting the machine girl now will only increase the compensation for mental distress. Compensation is compensation. I'm not short on that little bit of money. No wonder the voice sounded so familiar. It turned out to be that foolish woman, Wang Tingting. In the center of the crowd, Wang Tingting was confronting Jin Sun, with staff from the association standing between them. However, compared to their previous two encounters, Jin Sun looked noticeably more haggard, her expression cold, filled with anger and disdain. Since Ms. Wang is willing to terminate the contract, then I will submit the evidence. Jin Sun reached back and pulled out a shiny object, resembling a USB drive. Submitting evidence. Wang Tingting scoffed, hands on her hips. What evidence can you submit? Did I give you less to eat, or where? Didn't TI buy you the upgraded core and the holy mark? I have been so good to you, and you actually want to terminate the contract? You ingrate. These resources were indeed very important and precious to machine girls. Jin Sun did not refute this point. Sadness flickered in her eyes as she looked at Wang Tingting. But machine girls need respect and care even more. These upgraded cores and holy marks have already been returned to you, and I will compensate you for the basic star essence used for upgrades at market price. Humph. Market price compensation? Wang Tingting sneered. Do you have money? Jin Sun pressed her lips together. I will have it soon. She gestured for the staff to take the USB drive. The staff, experienced in handling such matters, immediately plugged the USB drive into a laptop and connected it to the large screen at the entrance of the association. This was standard procedure for the Machine Protection Association. After all, many pilots and machine girls pass through here every day. They served as natural witnesses. Moreover, broadcasting it on the large screen had a warning and educational significance, urging pilots to care for and respect their machine girls, while also letting machine girls know how to properly defend their rights. Seeing the situation, Wang Tingting realized that Jin Sun was secretly recording. She felt a slight panic, but then reassured herself that she hadn't done anything outrageous. Beside her, Lin Haijun quietly asked, what's going on? Did Jin Sun turn on the pilot's recorder for you? Did you do something bad to her? Lin Go, am I that kind of person? Wang Tingting said with a strained voice, looking aggrieved. You don't know how I treat Jin Sun? All the resources have been thrown at her. Clearly, she's an ungrateful wretch. Lin Haijun thought about it and agreed. Previously, Wang Tingting had terminated her contract with Xingming due to its poor performance, but it was just a temporary contract without much authority. To put it simply, it was just a stopgap, and terminating it was nothing to fuss about. Jin Sun, however, was different. It was a formal bond contract. That meant partnership, friendship, companionship, family. Could the treatment of a bond contract be the same as a temporary contract? He had seen Wang Tingting's efforts during this time. After all, he had been feeling sore and dizzy, with his kidneys already feeling a bit weak. So he did trust Wang Tingting to some extent. Moreover, Wang Tingting had indeed given all her resources to Jin Sun. Logically, Jin Sun should like Wang Tingting very much. Why did she secretly activate the driver behavior recorder then? But soon his thoughts changed. With the staff's operations, the video footage quickly appeared on the big screen. Damn it, why can't I keep up? I've spent so many resources. The sound of Wang Tingting slamming the steering wheel was piercing even through the screen. And those unbearable curses. Useless. You can't even take a simple turn. Can't you correct it yourself? Accelerate, accelerate. What good is it for me to give you this mark, you worthless piece of junk? In the recording, Jin Sun's face could be seen. Every time Wang Tingting hit the steering wheel, Jin Sun's face turned pale for a moment. The cockpit was the softest space for the machine girl. They entrusted their most vulnerable parts to the driver, which was not only a sign of trust, but also meant that in case of danger, various protective devices would activate to save the driver's life. The steering wheel connected to the machine girl's nervous system. Slamming the steering wheel was no different from hitting someone on the head with a hammer. Jin Sun gritted her teeth in pain, sweating from the discomfort. Yet, not wanting to be distracted on the track, she remained silent. According to the recording, during one race, Jin Sun was hit on the steering wheel a total of 8 times. After crashing into the guardrail, Wang Tingting went crazy in the cockpit, hitting and kicking, rolling around, and flailing her arms. These scenes came one after another, and one could clearly feel a surge of anger building among the crowd. Wang Tingting sensed it. She shrank her head slightly, feeling a bit guilty, and asked Lin Haijun, Lin Go, I just hit the steering wheel a few times, right? It shouldn't be that serious. Lin Haijun's face darkened, his fists clenched and then relaxed repeatedly. Then he slapped Wang Tingting across the face. Damn it, just a few hits on the steering wheel? How many do you want to hit? Wang Tingting was stunned by Lin Haijun's slap, and after a long time, she trembled and managed to say, Lin Haijun, you actually hit me? Lin Haijun stepped forward and kicked her. Not only did I hit you, but I also kicked you. He pointed at Wang Tingting, who was kicked to the ground, and coldly said, I hate people who smash the steering wheel of a machine partner the most. How come I never realized you were such a fool before? Lin Haijun trembled with anger, and his head began to ache again. The nearby Bofeng quickly helped Lin Haijun to his side to rest. Lin Haijun, are you still a man? How could you hit me? Wang Tingting went completely crazy. Not caring about how vulgar her words were, she shouted, you treasure your machine partner so much. Why don't you let her sleep with you? Don't come at me. If you come at me, you're on drugs too? The crowd erupted in boos, though it was unclear whether they were cheering or mocking. Undeniably, while Jin Sun's plight was infuriating, the drama unfolding was evidently more enticing. Bofeng lowered her head, her cheeks flushed, gripping Lin Haijun's shirt tightly. Wishing she could disappear into a crack in the ground, Lin Haijun's face darkened, staring at the frenzied Wang Tingting with a fierce expression. In my family, the rule is that you cannot have a romantic relationship with a machine partner before forming a spiritual bond. Otherwise, you will face family punishment. I didn't form a bond with Bofeng because I was afraid of holding her back. I don't think I'm worthy of her. I haven't become an excellent driver yet. Otherwise, do you think you would matter? Bofeng is my family, and you are nothing more than a tool, a distraction, a plaything. Do you really think that just because I call you baby you are one? It's a good thing you hit Jin Sun and not Bofeng. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know which river you'd be sinking in right now. After taking painkillers, Lin Haijun felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. After saying so much, he was too lazy to argue further with Wang Tingting. Just fend for yourself, you fool. He coldly dropped that remark and turned to leave with Bofeng. Wang Tingting sat on the ground in a daze, as if she couldn't believe it. Wasn't Lin Haijun supposed to be her devoted follower? He had never treated her this way before. Just because she hit Jin Sun's steering wheel? This young lady, you were suspected of intentionally harming and humiliating a contracted machine partner, given that you and Jin Sun have a bond. This meets the criteria for intervention by the Machine Protection Association. The staff's voice pulled Wang Tingting back from her daze. She looked at the staff member's serious yet disgusted expression, bewildered. What do you mean? How are you going to intervene? The evidence is conclusive. First, Jin Sun can terminate the bond without liability. Secondly, you need to compensate Jin Sun for emotional damages and treatment costs. The staff paused, took out a briefcase. Since Jin Sun has upgraded once in your hands, she will first refund you the initial star essence money. Here is 50,000 yuan. Based on the market price of the initial star essence. Wang Tingting glanced at the briefcase, then at Jin Sun, and a cold smile appeared on her lips. Fine. Terminate the contract if you want. I don't care. Just tell me how much I need to pay. The staff member frowned while calculating on a phone calculator. Then looking up at Wang Tingting, they said, according to the regulations of the Machine Protection Association and our assessment and calculation of your improper behavior, you need to pay Jin Sun a compensation of 300,000 yuan. 300,000. Wang Tingting's eyes widened. Why don't you go and grab it? Chapter 56. Moving towards their own light. 1. For Wang Tingting, 300,000 is definitely not a small amount, especially since Lin Haijun has already severed ties with her. She never imagined that just a few hits on the steering wheel of the car would cost her so much money. She even began to suspect whether the insurance company and the car manufacturer had colluded to set her up. But the little rationality she had left told her that this was impossible. The insurance company has branches in various cities and is an independent organization outside of the official system, rumored to have half of its founding members as industry professionals, with others being well-known in various fields. In short, they are a large and influential organization that wouldn't need to target her specifically. Moreover, she has no power or influence and cannot fight against these institutions. She can only swallow her grievances. Fine, I'll pay. Wang Tingting gritted her teeth and took out a card. This was given to her by Lin Haijun. She wasn't sure how much money was in it, but Lin Haijun had said it would be enough for her needs. Usually, she was reluctant to spend from this card. Compared to those girls who splurge on cosmetics and clothes, she preferred to invest in her future. She intended to save this money to pave her way, for example, to enter better clubs. So, she had no idea how much was in there, but paying 300,000 should be more than sufficient. Besides, wasn't there also a 50,000 compensation option? The staff took the card and swiped it on the card reader. Beep. Insufficient balance. How is that possible? Wang Tingting was stunned, staring at the card reader. Can you try swiping 100,000? Beep. Insufficient balance. Not even 100,000. Then, how about 10,000? Beep. Insufficient balance. Wang Tingting was dumbfounded. The staff rolled their eyes and swiped for 1 yuan. Beep. Insufficient balance. Miss Wang, you have no money in this card. Do you have any other payment methods? The staff was starting to get impatient. They pointed to a shop next to the insurance company. If it doesn't work, you can apply for a loan over there. The interest is reasonable, but if you default, it will affect your credit. You'll face utility cuts, and your driver's license will be suspended. You won't be able to leave the city. No, I can't take out a loan. Wang Tingting panicked. If she took a loan, she would be finished. She would be disqualified. Lin Haijun, it must be Lin Haijun. Lin Haijun has transferred the money from the card. Lin. She suddenly turned her head to look for Lin Haijun, but there was no sign of him anywhere. In a flurry, she took out her phone to call Lin Haijun. But the response was, "The number you have dialed is switched off. Please try again later." How could it be switched off? Wang Tingting's face turned pale. Then it hit her that Lin Haijun had blocked her. What about her money? Where could she find 300,000 to compensate for the car? Can you give me a few more days? Wang Tingting forced out a smile that looked worse than crying, her tone softening. She looked towards Jin Shun again, saying, "Come on, Jin Shun, stop it. Master was wrong. Master promises to treat you well and respect you in the future. I will never hit your steering wheel again. Can you give Master a chance, okay?" As she spoke, she reached out to hold Jin Shun's hand, but Jin Shun casually pulled away. "No." Jin Shun shook her head firmly. "Even though I'm just a C-class mech girl, if I had known you were this kind of person from the start, I would never have contracted with you." She regretted it long ago. From the moment she witnessed Wang Tingting abandon Xingming with that sneering expression, she had already felt regret. Normally, when graduates terminate temporary contracts with mech girls, it ends amicably. Some drivers even feel guilty and provide some compensation to their former partners. Wang Tingting gave no compensation to Xingming, only mockery and oppression, treating her like an enemy. It was clear that Wang Tingting was not a good person. However, at that time, she had no reason to terminate the contract with Wang Tingting. Jin Shun was unwilling to reconcile, so the staff said, "Madam, we must complete the payment within a day." Their expression turned serious, and their tone grew colder. "Please cooperate with our work, otherwise we will take coercive measures." Where am I supposed to find 300,000 in a day? Wang Tingting despaired as she scanned the crowd, her gaze suddenly locking onto Su Chun and Xingming. Su Chun had just won the city championship. He must have a prize. Su Chun, if it weren't for me and Xingming terminating the temporary contract, you wouldn't have met such a good mech girl, right? She rushed in front of Su Chun and Xingming like she had found a lifeline, wearing a somewhat flattering smile. "You see, if it weren't for me, the two of you wouldn't have met. This fate was created by me. So can you lend me some money? I can write an IOU, and I will definitely pay you back slowly." Su Chun looked at Wang Tingting with a strange expression, as if he were looking at some unknown creature. Is she a fake human? No. How could Aunt Wang have the nerve to be this thick-skinned? It seems the authorities are really tough on lending and dishonest individuals. Tough enough that Wang Tingting would rather shamelessly ask him for money than take out a loan. "I won't lend you anything, even sitting in a wheelchair." Xingming still stood in front of Su Chun, her arms crossed in a big X in front of her, her fluffy cat ears pressed tightly together, frowning, and making low whimpering sounds. "Bad woman, that's money we earned together with Master. It's our honor. How could we give it to you?" Wang Tingting looked at this Xingming, who had once obeyed her every word, feeling incredibly unfamiliar and surprised. In fact, she was already very astonished when she saw the competition footage of Xingming giving her all to reach the finish line. She simply couldn't understand why Xingming had never shown such remarkable qualities under her command before. If she had known that Xingming had this fierce spirit deep down, she would never have abandoned her. But now, it was too late to say anything. Xingming was now enjoying a good life with Su Chun, and having won the city championship together, she must be completely devoted to him. However, the difference between a fool and a wise person lies in the fact that wise people do not waste their efforts on hopeless situations. Foolish people, on the other hand, tend to cling to their ridiculous luck and struggle desperately even when they are at a dead end. Chapter 56. Moving towards their own light. 2. Xingming. Why don't you come back and be my machine girl? I was wrong. I didn't realize your potential before. I promise to treat you well in the future and give you the best modifications. Whatever flavor of nutrient solution you want, I'll buy it for you. Fresh and unlimited. Wang Tingting said sincerely. In the past, when she said these things, Xingming would be overjoyed. But she never said anything because she couldn't be bothered to flatter Xingming. I don't want to. Xingming hugged Su Chun tightly, her pretty face pressed against him, glaring at Wang Tingting with a pout. I just want Master. I don't want to be modified into an X-level machine girl or an EX-level machine girl. Bad woman, I won't follow you anymore. So give up, meow. Su Chun looked at Xingming, who was guarding her territory, and couldn't help but laugh. Clearly, she was very angry, but her tone sounded almost like she was being spoiled. No wonder she was bullied by Wang Tingting. Perhaps in Wang Tingting's eyes, Xingming never really got angry. I'm going to sign a soul contract with Master today. Do you know what a soul contract is? Xingming huffed, raised her chin, and said in a super proud tone, no machine girl in this lifetime would be willing to sign a soul contract with you. And I, Xingming, will actively sign a soul contract with Master. Bad woman, just envy me for a lifetime, meow. Friendly laughter came from the crowd around them. Xingming's face flushed slightly, and she shook her cat ears but still maintained her proud demeanor. Being able to sign a soul contract with Su Chun was something she was proud of. What was there to be shy about? She wanted to announce to the world that she was about to have the best Master. Woman, what you need to do now is to pay the compensation of 300,000 000 as soon as possible. The staff saw Wang Tingting getting closer to the edge of the crowd and immediately blocked her path, squinting. Don't think about running away. You are a student of the academy, and your information has been recorded. No matter where you go, we can find you. I have no money. Wang Tingting gave up. Just do whatever you want with me. Not only did she have no money, but she also needed to pay rent. That shabby modification shop had no business at all. Even living there felt pitiful. She couldn't believe she had rented that rundown place for triple the rent and signed a one-year contract. Thinking about this made Wang Tingting's head throb. But the staff of the Machine Protection Association wouldn't give her time to dwell on her headache. He directly took out a walkie-talkie. Brothers, we have a job to do. As soon as he finished speaking, a roar came from the Machine Protection Association. Two lowly-like machine girls rushed out. However, with each step they took closer to Wang Tingting, their bodies expanded. By the time they reached Wang Tingting, they had transformed into towering figures of 2 meters tall. Their originally cute faces began to take on a JoJo-style appearance. What do you want to do? Wang Tingting was so frightened that she was stunned. Two powerful androids flanked her, gripping her arms tightly, leaving her unable to move. The staff member glanced at Wang Tingting, a smirk appearing at the corner of his mouth. According to Article 192 of the Android Protection Regulations, if the violating party is unable to pay the compensation, our organization has the authority to take coercive measures, including but not limited to escorting the violating party to a specialized institution for forced loans. Take her away. He waved his hand and said to Jin-sun, you can come to collect the compensation tomorrow. Today we have to handle a situation. Amid Wang Tingting's continuous struggles and curses, the two powerful androids dragged her into the loan institution like a lifeless dog. I wonder what will happen if she can't repay the loan. Su-chin looked at the closed door of the institution, curiously asking. She might be sent to work in a mine. The staff member coldly adjusted his glasses. If she doesn't work properly in the mine, the only things of value left on her would be a few organs. However, we usually don't take such extreme measures. At most, we would have her serve as a blood donor or participate in drug experiments. After all, we must respect her right to life. Su-chin responded, what a way to respect the right to life. However, he found it surprisingly acceptable when this so-called respect was applied to Wang Tingting. I heard you are here to sign a soul contract? The eerie seriousness on the staff's face faded, replaced by a gentle smile. Xingming, right? I know you. He smiled warmly at Xingming in the wheelchair. You are a brave child, whether for yourself or your master. You perfectly embody the spirit of competition and the glory of the track. Come with me. He then nodded at Su-chun. I will be in charge of the registration today. Jin-sun watched as Su-chun pushed Xingming's wheelchair towards the entrance of the Android Protection Association. The afternoon sun streamed through the glass, draping them in a layer of soft golden light. Su-chin slightly lowered his head, saying something, while Xingming tilted her face up, her cat ears perked up. Her laughter clear and cheerful. Their figures were gently enveloped in a halo of light, gradually becoming blurred. It wasn't until the door closed that Jin-sun turned around. She stepped forward in the opposite direction. The sunlight generously cascaded upon her, outlining her solitary path. She felt happy for Xingming. The happiness that curled at the corners of her mouth was so bright. Perhaps in the future, she too could meet a master with whom she could share her heart. She looked forward to it. Jin-sun straightened her back and walked towards her own sunlit path. They turned their backs to each other, each heading towards their own light. 1. Star Dream. Name, Star Dream. Emblem, Radiance. Team Support Type. Speed, 47. Cornering, 54. Stability, 42. Burst, 35. Endurance, 51. Modification Core, none. Stigmata, none. Current level, D. Special Talent, 1. Not activated. 2. Catgirl Appearance Specialization, 3. Silent Movement. Frequency, 5. Status, Listless. Evaluation, Soft and Cozy. Suitable for warming the bed. Competing? Forget it. Already specialized as a catgirl, what more do you want? One cannot have it all. 2. Queen Name, Queen. Emblem, Thunder. Burst Type. Speed, 76. Cornering, 90. Stability, 81. Burst, 61. Endurance, 82. Modification Core, Vortex Monarch Type. Purple. Stigmata, Frenzy 3-piece set blue. Speed 10. Nitrous time 20. Roll Correction 5. Eternal Heart 1-piece set purple. Endurance 9. Current level, SS. Special Talent, Invalid. Frequency, 0. Status, Malfunctioning. Unable to drive. Evaluation, a top-tier machine girl with outstanding talent, but has been ruined by a careless modifier. 3. Golden Falcon. Name, Golden Falcon. Emblem, Flowing Flame. Speed, 61. Cornering, 48. Stability, 49. Burst, 47. Endurance, 44. Modification Core, Vortex Basic Type, White. Stigmata, none. Current level, C. Special Talent, none. Frequency, 0. Status, Good 4. Cloud Piercer. Name, Cloud Piercer. Emblem, Storm, Control Type. Speed, 58. Cornering, 70. Stability, 61. Burst, 45. Endurance, 37. Modification Core, Little Siren, Blue. Stigmata, none. Current level, C. Special talent, none. Frequency, 13. Driver, Huang Shixuan. Status, good. Evaluation, on tracks with many corners and short distances. She's a sharp blade. This chapter was modified because the wrong chapter was sent, so it can be skipped directly. The chapter is incorrect, can be skipped. Name, Qianghai Xinghui. Speed, 65. Cornering, 78. Stability, 61. Burst, 51. Endurance, 9. Modification Core, Assault Type 3. Blue. Stigmata, none. Current level, B. Special talent, none. Frequency, 36. Geno. Status, good. Fault, endurance sustainability decreased. Evaluation, a fallen angel. 10 years ago, the driver Geno, known as the Golden Razor, was a gold medal coach for the Night Voice team. Due to Qianghai's inability to keep up with the team's progress, Geno agreed to participate in Qianghai's modification plan under the persuasion of Qin Xian. As a result, Qianghai lost memories and emotions, suffering from severe endurance defects, rendering it completely unable to race. During the process of seeking justice for Qianghai, Geno faced suppression from the Night Voice group. He hid in the corners of the city and opened a training ground, constantly searching for ways to help Qianghai recover. Under Geno's careful care, Qianghai gradually regained memories, but the endurance defect remained unresolved. The theoretical basis for the Nitrogen Acceleration Modification Core. Nitrogen acceleration is a meticulously planned internal song of ice and fire occurring within the engine. Its true nature is not the direct combustion of nitrogen, but rather the use of a special substance called nitrous oxide, NO, commonly known as laughing gas. When the driver presses the button, liquid nitrous oxide is injected into the engine's intake manifold and rushes into the high-temperature cylinder. At extremely high temperatures, NO molecules become highly unstable, instantly decomposing and releasing two elements, oxygen, O, which acts as the accelerant. Its task is to aid combustion. Ordinary engines burn fuel by drawing in air, which has a limited oxygen content, thus restricting the amount of fuel that can be burned and consequently limiting power. The oxygen provided by NO decomposition is extra and pure, much like connecting a pure oxygen injection pump to a furnace that originally relied on a fan for airflow. Instantly, the flames inside the furnace transform from a gentle burn to a raging fire. The ECU, engine control unit, detects this sudden influx of oxygen and immediately instructs the fuel injectors to dispense fuel far beyond normal levels. The result is more fuel, more oxygen, a more intense and powerful explosion, leading to an astonishing surge in power. Nitrogen, N, acts as the calm and restrained guardian. Its role is to cool down. The violent combustion triggered by oxygen generates extremely high temperatures, which can easily cause engine knock, and abnormal combustion that can damage pistons and cylinders, leading to overheating of metal parts. Nitrogen, being an inert gas, then becomes a crucial buffer and coolant. On one hand, it absorbs and removes a significant amount of heat within the cylinder, effectively controlling the runaway temperature. On the other hand, it fills the cylinder, acting like an invisible cushion, making the explosive combustion relatively stable and controllable rather than a catastrophic explosion. The result is, it protects the engine, preventing this power frenzy from instantly turning into a disaster. Therefore, the entire process can be understood like this. The system injects nitrous oxide, NO, which acts like a specially designed energy package. This energy package splits in the cylinder. Oxygen is responsible for igniting and wildly boosting power, while nitrogen cools things down, calmly controlling the situation to prevent self-destruction. Chapter 57. Prefer not to sign. The registration process is not complicated. It just involves updating information on the computer. But compared to the basic information required during the binding contract, this time the spiritual contract requires much more detailed information, such as height, weight, age, and outlook for the future. The Insurance Association has its own unique aspects as well. After registering the information, the staff led Su Chun and Xing Ming into an area resembling a grand hall. Compared to the bustling crowd outside, this place felt particularly spacious. The number of machine girls and drivers coming to sign the spiritual contract was small, and they sat in pairs, scattered throughout the seats in the grand hall. They were sitting close to each other, whispering, and the atmosphere resembled that of couples. Moreover, there seemed to be a natural synergy between them. Unlike the drivers and machine girls outside, who at first glance appeared somewhat mismatched, at best resembling acquaintances. These are the machine girls and drivers coming to sign the spiritual contract. The staff guided Su Chun and Xing Ming through the seating area, introducing them quietly. Some had just arrived, while others had not met the conditions previously, having an opportunity once a month. Conditions? Su Chun was taken aback. Were there prerequisites to meet? Indeed. The staff adjusted their glasses and raised a finger. There is a very simple condition. As long as the machine girl's basic synchronization rate is qualified, they can sign the spiritual contract. Su Chen glanced at Xingming's basic synchronization rate of 50%. This was not the value after winning the city championship, but rather the result of taking care of Xingming over the past few days, especially after just applying medicine, which bizarrely increased by a full 10 percentage points. He wasn't sure if this value was qualified. After all, in his impression, being qualified was associated with the number 60. If it was not qualified, that would be awkward. There's a pair in front of you. I will test them first so you can observe the specific testing process. The staff led Su Chen and Xingming to the front row and signaled them to wait. Then, he turned around and changed into a black robe resembling that of a priest, looking very much like a wedding officiant as he stood on the platform. Mr. Li Chengxian. Miss Lingju, please come up. The driver and machine girl who were called seemed a bit shy as they stood in front of the staff. The staff then took out a cube-shaped device and placed it solemnly on the table. Let's begin. He nodded at the two. The driver and machine girl exchanged a glance, both showing signs of nervousness and mutual encouragement in their eyes. Then, each of them reached out a hand and placed it on the cube at the same time. Meow? Xingming curiously twitched her cat ears, and the previously unremarkable cube suddenly glowed with a faint milky white light. The staff members stared intently at the cube for a while before sighing. No, your resonance is only 23. You still have a long way to go. Go back and keep working hard. The driver named Li Chengxian looked a bit stunned. He glanced at his partner, who was also looking down with a disappointed expression, and ultimately said nothing. Don't act solely on your feelings, the staff member warned seriously. You need to truly understand what your partner, your mech girl, really needs inside. Please head back, and I hope you can make some breakthroughs next month. Watching the two leave in disappointment, Xingming murmured softly, Master, this test is so strict, meow. She felt a bit anxious. What if we can't pass the test? We won't be able to sign the spiritual contract today. How regrettable. I even specifically consulted an online fortune teller for mech girls today, spending 99 yuan. She said today was a good day. Xingming twisted her fingers together, pouting, looking quite distressed. For her, as long as it wasn't spent on Su Chen, even just 100 yuan felt like a bit of a waste. Moreover, she realized she might have been tricked by the online fortune teller. Su Chen couldn't help but chuckle at Xingming's puffed-up expression, gently patting her little head and comforting her. Don't worry, we're close, there won't be any problems. In truth, he wasn't very confident himself and was already pondering how to soothe Xingming later. Mr. Su Chen, Miss Xingming, you two come here. Xingming swallowed hard. Her small hand hurriedly tried to grab the hem of Su Chen's clothes, but awkwardly caught his hand instead. Just as she was about to let go, that warm big hand firmly wrapped around her small hand. Xingming felt her breath quicken, warmth surging in her face and heart. Then the wheelchair moved forward under Su Chen's guidance until they reached the table. The staff member glanced at Su Chen and the blushing Xingming in the wheelchair, smiling slightly. He knew that Xingming had mobility issues, so he picked up the cube and held it out with both hands in front of them. Give it a try, and let's see if your bond is strong enough. The star deity will judge. Su Chen took a deep breath and placed his hand on the cube. Xingming stared at the cube, silently praying for the star deity's blessing, and placed her hand on top, right next to Su Chen's large hand. Buzz. A much brighter and softer milky white light suddenly burst forth from the cube. The entire auditorium fell silent. All the pilots and mech girls stared wide-eyed at the cube. 50%. You two have only known each other for a short time, right? The staff member looked at Xingming and Su Chen in disbelief, confusion and surprise filling his eyes. A wave of gasps and suppressed exclamations echoed through the auditorium. 50%. My goodness. They must have known each other for a long time, maybe 4 or 5 years. It has been 4 to 5 years without changing the mecha partner. And consistently training one mecha partner can indeed lead to such a level of resonance. Master, look at others, and then look at yourself. What is wrong with me? This resonance level isn't solely up to me. Xingming was so nervous that her palms were sweating, still eagerly watching the staff, waiting for the final verdict. Su Chen heard the discussions behind him and felt half of his worries lift. So is it qualified? Yes. The staff nodded. Of course it's qualified. Our requirement is a minimum resonance level of 30 to sign the spiritual contract, which also prevents the mecha from encountering an unsuitable driver. After all, the spiritual contract isn't an equal agreement for the mecha. Meow? I said I would definitely qualify with Master. Xingming sighed in relief, patting her chest. It seems the mecha master wasn't wrong. Today is indeed a good day for her. She smiled brightly at Su Chen, only to see him frowning deeply. Master? Her smile faded, her cat ears drooping as she quietly asked, What's wrong? Are you unhappy? Su Chen stroked Xingming's head, pondering for a moment before addressing the staff. I don't like having an unequal relationship with Xingming, even if she is willing. So, I want to know the necessity of signing the spiritual contract, what benefits it brings to Xingming. If it only benefits me as the driver, I would rather not sign. Chapter 58. The so-called resonance level behind Su Chun and Xingming. The drivers and mechas looked at Su Chun with puzzled expressions. Even the staff were the same. He had been a host for 7 or 8 years and had never encountered someone like Su Chun before. However, he quickly understood from Xingming's initial shock and then slightly reddened eyes. Achieving a resonance level of 50 with a mecha in under a month is precisely because he cares more about the mecha's feelings, right? If Xingming didn't have a master who cared so much for her, she wouldn't be pushing herself so hard on the racetrack. Hearing Su Chun say this made it all clear. Mr. Su Chun, I completely understand your concerns. The staff's smile softened even more. The spiritual contract does have some benefits for the mecha. First, the basic resonance level is almost locked, and there is little chance of regression. This allows the mecha to enter resonance mode more easily on the racetrack. When the resonance level reaches 60, 80, and 100, it corresponds to 3 stages of resonance mode, and entering each stage temporarily boosts the mecha's attributes. If your mecha is a top-tier model and has awakened talent skills, then the 3 resonance stages will unlock advanced levels of those skills, granting stronger effects. Moreover, exceeding a resonance level of 100 triggers a very rare overclock state. I'm not clear on the specific enhancements as such cases are quite rare and not publicly disclosed. It's only known that different mechas achieve varying effects in overclock mode. Su Chun quietly listened to the staff member's words. This indeed provided some benefits for the machine girl, but it was primarily advantageous for the racetrack, with the drivers also reaping rewards. Was there anything else? Yes. When the basic synchronization frequency reaches 60, 80, and 100, the machine girl's body will undergo changes, becoming more beautiful, akin to having a more attractive and flashy exterior. In front of other machine girls, those with such special changes would have more prestige. Su Chun, this is like unlocking a companion skin through the favorability system. I guess this is a benefit for Xingming, as it will eventually lead to limited edition beautiful outfits. Is there more? Yes. The staff continued. Racing is an inherently dangerous sport, especially as one gets closer to world-class tracks, where the risks become even greater. No one can guarantee the safety of the drivers and the machine girls. It is well known that if a machine girl suffers a severe accident and approaches death, she can be revived as long as her core consciousness is intact. However, if the core consciousness is damaged, she will die completely. But if there is a mental contract in place, a machine girl with a damaged core consciousness can be revived with the driver's help. Su Chun nodded slightly. Finally, there were some substantial benefits. In the event of danger during a race, the machine girl would prioritize protecting the driver. So even if there was a serious collision, the driver generally wouldn't face major issues, at most a concussion. In such scenarios, the mental contract becomes a form of life assurance for the machine girl. However, he felt it was still not enough. He looked at the staff member, who was also looking back at him. Before he could ask, the staff member spoke up first. Mr. Su Chun, I understand you want to establish an absolutely equal relationship with Miss Xingming. After all, once a machine girl signs a mental contract, the driving rights are reduced to 40, meaning that in major decisions, as long as the driver is conscious, she must obey the driver's commands, and in daily life, she will also follow the driver's instructions. This is not mandatory, but the nature of this relationship will lead the machine girl to trust the driver unconditionally. Furthermore, even if the driver passes away, she will not be able to sign any contracts with other drivers. This means that even if the driver harms the machine girl, she will have no complaints. A century ago, there were no synchronization frequency requirements when drivers and machine girls signed mental contracts. It was due to many frustrating and infuriating incidents that the star god introduced a special state attribute called synchronization frequency, and only those with a frequency of 30 could sign a mental contract. The staff's words echoed in the empty auditorium. Not only Su Chun and Xingming, but also other drivers and machine girls listened intently. Those restless hearts gradually calmed down. While the synchronization frequency as a threshold cannot completely filter out the unscrupulous, I have not dealt with any repulsive incidents since I started. Daily acts of kindness and thoughtful gifts are the foundation for building trust. The cornerstones that allow synchronization frequency to rise from 0 to 10, 20. They make the machine girls feel valued and respected, which is fundamental and incredibly important. But the staff's gaze became distant, as if recalling countless past scenes. What truly brings about a qualitative change in the frequency? Breaking through that critical threshold of 30 to reach 60, 80, or even higher, often occurs at the turning points of fate, in the midst of storms. When faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges, it is the choices you make together in those moments. When confronted with a dangerous track, with the engine wailing and the vehicle under extreme pressure, victory may seem distant. When the machine trembles from fear or is on the brink of losing control due to malfunctions, and when doubts fill the air and the path ahead is unclear, it is the driver who firmly grips the steering wheel, looking determinedly and saying, "Trust me, and trust yourself, we can push through," refusing to give up. It is the machine that, despite immense pain and risk, still places all its trust in the driver, responding with, "Master, I can hold on." Together, showing unwavering loyalty. It is in the darkest moments that you do not think about how to save yourselves, but rather how to lead each other out of danger with that most genuine instinct. These moments, these choices that transcend rational calculations and personal safety, are the sparks that ignite the resonance deep within your souls. When you stand shoulder to shoulder at the edge of the abyss instead of turning away, when you can still feel each other's heartbeat in the midst of extreme pressure, that is when your souls truly begin to merge on a deeper level. The cold numerical value of frequency will break through because of the friendship and will forged through shared trials and tribulations. Mr. Suchun, when you brought Star Dream here, I knew that your frequency with Star Dream must be compatible because you have weathered storms together and achieved glory and victory. The staff looked at Suchun with understanding and approval in their eyes. Even your hesitation now reflects your appreciation for Star Dream. I just didn't expect your frequency with her to be so high. If you must ask what the greatest benefit of the soul contract is, I can only tell you it is happiness. The soul contract locks in not just the basic frequency. It locks in the brilliance that you both shone together during those darkest moments, the chapters you wrote with trust and courage. It means that no matter how many turns or storms lie ahead, your souls will be intertwined and your wills synchronized. This is the most precious and irreplaceable benefit of this contract for the machine. And it is also the happiness that they are willing to place above the glory of the track. As the words fell, the auditorium fell silent. The man's words were like a stone thrown into a still lake, creating ripples upon ripples. Thoughts of speed, performance, and victory were quietly suppressed, replaced by a deeper contemplation. The drivers instinctively looked at their machines, and the machines' gazes softened considerably. Suchun felt Star Dream's hand gripping his more tightly. That slight tremor was not from fear or anxiety, but seemed to be a deeper stirring. Mr. Suchun, I have said all that needs to be said. The staff calmly took a sip of water. Are you willing to sign a soul contract with Star Dream? He paused for a moment, his expression serious as he looked at Suchun. Do you wish to give happiness to this machine by your side? Suchun took a deep breath. Memories of moments spent with Xingming flashed rapidly through his mind. Although they hadn't known each other for long, such scenes were surprisingly numerous, almost filling his entire mind. In the end, everything froze at the city championship, capturing Xingming's gentle smile before she fainted. That smile had a warmth capable of melting souls, making his heart tremble. He felt no trace of worry or hesitation anymore. I do, he said seriously, each word resonating with conviction. When he uttered those 3 words, Suchun felt a flush rise to his cheeks. He didn't understand why this usually thick-skinned person would blush. However, the sense of marriage suddenly became much stronger. He clearly felt Xingming shiver beside him. Looking down, he saw her with her head lowered, obscuring her expression. But her previously pale pink ears were now a deep shade of red. Clearly, the officiant's words had quite an impact on her. Very well, the officiant said, looking at Xingming. Are you willing to give your whole self to this driver beside you? I do, Meow. I'm very willing. Xingming replied without any hesitation. But she didn't dare to look at the officiant or Suchun, feeling her heart race and her face burning. She had no idea what was happening to her. After all, it was her first time signing a soul contract, and she hadn't learned how mech girls would react. She attributed these feelings to the special sensations arising from the contract signing ceremony. The officiant wore a knowing smile. Finally, we witness another pair of a mech girl and driver binding their soul contract. How wonderful. Although it took a lot of words. If he could have this kind of work every day, he wouldn't mind talking endlessly. Unfortunately, there were very few drivers and mech girls that reached the threshold for a soul contract. Encountering a pair in 6 months was already quite good. Next, under the gaze of the star deity, you will establish your soul contract, and at the same time, you may make a wish to the star deity. A mysterious smile appeared on the officiant's face. It is said that wishes made at the time of forming a soul contract can be heard by the star deity, making them very effective. Wishing to a deity? Are we back to entertaining children? Suchun smirked. Meow? A very effective wish. Xingming's eyes sparkled, clearly eager to try. The officiant took out something resembling a car key and pressed it gently. Boom. The ground shook. Then, a statue that nearly reached the ceiling of the hall rose before Xingming and Suchun. The statue did not represent an individual, but rather a team, or rather, 3 mech girls and 1 human driver. Over the years, the faces of the statue had become somewhat blurred, but Suchun still felt a sense of familiarity. Why did the man standing at the front of the statue seem somewhat familiar? There was no time to think further as the officiant began to speak again. Miss Xingming, please extract your core consciousness under the gaze of the star deity and make your wish. Remember, you may only make 1 wish. Meow. Xingming nodded and closed her eyes. She took a deep breath, her hands gently pressed against her chest, as a melodious and soft chant echoed from an unknown source. Faint starlight gradually blossomed around her. Her hands slowly opened like petals, and a cube-shaped mental core began to spin and take shape in her palms. This was the mental core. Su Chen stared at the slowly rotating cube in Xingming's hands. The deep blue glow on the cube connected to the right side of her chest, as if she had taken her heart out and was presenting it to him with both hands. The gentle chant gradually became solemn. Watching the scene before him, which could almost be described as sacred, Su Chen couldn't help but get goosebumps, his body instinctively tensing up. Miss Xingming, make a wish to the star god, the host said with a smile. Xingming instinctively looked at Su Chen, blinking her big eyes. Then, holding the mental core, she prayed to the statue. She wished to become a world-class machine girl, to let Masta live a long life, and to be together with Masta forever. Friendly laughter filled the hall. The host chuckled and teased. Miss Xingming, you can only make one wish. Don't be too greedy. You've already listed 3 wishes. Think carefully and choose the one you want the most. Xingming scratched her head, her cat ears drooping, looking distressed. It's so hard to choose. Can't I have more wishes? I believe the star god wouldn't mind. The host replied, ahem, just a necessary rule reminder. Since you have already signed a mental contract with Mr. Su Chen, you have almost achieved the wish of being with him forever. If you want Mr. Su Chen to live a long life, you need to win the world championship, and then you will receive the ultimate blessing from the star god. You can use this blessing for many things, including granting Mr. Su Chen eternal life. Eternal life. An unfamiliar term. Su Chen looked at the host in surprise. He spoke very seriously. It was clearly not just a playful remark. Could there really be a power in this world that grants eternal life? Oh meow, I understand. Xingming's eyes brightened. Her cat ears perked up energetically. She looked at the statue earnestly and sincerely said, Star God, please bless us to successfully win the world championship and become world-class. After saying this, she silently added in her heart. Then use the ultimate blessing to grant Masta eternal life. This way, she could be with Masta forever. It's a plan, meow. The host was not surprised by such a wish. It was a common desire for machine girls. He turned to Su Chen. Mr. Su Chen, you can also make a wish to the star god. Me? Su Chen pointed to himself. Yes, but you can only make one. All right. Su Chen stood before the statue. Even though he knew that this so-called wishing was just a formality like blowing out birthday candles, the solemn atmosphere around still made him take it seriously. My wish is Xingming's wish. I hope to fulfill Xingming's wish in the future. As the words fell, the statue's eyes lit up with a faint glow, as if coming to life. Soon, a beam of starlight descended from the circular dome, enveloping Star Dream like a spotlight. Su Chen was taken aback. After a brief moment of astonishment, the host quickly realized and whispered, Mr. Su Chen, you and Star Dream haven't received the blessing from the star god after winning the city championship, have you? In fact, both witnessing a soul contract and receiving the star god's blessing establish a connection with the star god. The star god saw that Star Dream did not have the champion's blessing, so it granted one as an extra. Su Chen's lips twitched slightly. So, the star god can hear the wishes I make with Star Dream? Of course, the host nodded seriously. Do you think the star god statue is just for show? Su Chen was speechless, because that was exactly what he thought. Just relying on a statue to connect with the star god, who was drifting somewhere in the universe, was too fantastical. This world he had crossed into Shun-Ti belonged to urban high martial arts, right? Just now, he almost thought the star god was going to grant his and Star Dream's wishes. The starlight that fell on Star Dream did not last long. When it disappeared, Su Chen noticed that all of Star Dream's attributes had increased slightly, becoming speed, 64, cornering, 65, stability, 44, burst, 40, endurance, 53. This champion's blessing turned out to be equivalent to a level up? Quite impressive. Even more surprising to him was that Star Dream originally had a negative effect of 20 tire wear, which directly vanished after receiving the star god's blessing. Then, he watched in astonishment as Star Dream stood up from her wheelchair. Holding the mental core, she bounced over to him, cradling the cube with both hands. Her bright blue eyes eagerly gazing at him. Masta, I want to make a soul contract, meow. Chapter 60. Do they have enough thick skin? The soul contract was completed. The final step was simple. Just a drop of blood on Star Dream's mental core would suffice. However, Su Chen asked the host some questions he didn't understand. For instance, since the mechanical girl could extract the core, couldn't the soul contract be signed without a ceremony? The host replied that since last century, all mechanical girls have had mental shackles, and without undergoing the soul ceremony and the star god's approval, the soul contract would fail. Even draining the driver's blood completely wouldn't make it successful. This also maximally prevented some insincere scum from harming the mechanical girls. Another question was why the star god's blessing could heal Star Dream's injuries. He didn't remember the blessing having such an effect. Otherwise, Queen would have told him long ago. The host's answer was also vague, suggesting that both the soul contract and the blessing would enhance the connection with the star god. The combination of both factors has made the connection between the Star God and Star Dream clearer, allowing the Star God to wield more power to help Star Dream solve some issues. Thus, assisting Star Dream in recovering from injuries during the blessing has become a straightforward task. When the Mech Girl won the World Championship and received the ultimate blessing, her connection with the Star God reached an almost peak level. This is why the Star God could fully harness divine power, achieving even seemingly fantastical conditions like granting immortality to both the pilot and the Mech Girl. However, this is indeed real. The MC cited several pilots who have already attained immortality. This year's World League Association president, Linny Feng, is one such immortal and also the champion from the previous World Championship. At the entrance of the Mech Maintenance Association, Suchin looked at the girl in front of him, who was bouncing with obvious delight, while his mind was still pondering the information provided by the MC. Mech girls have a lifespan. Compared to the less than a century of human life, most Mech girls can live for over 1,000 years. Yet, they ultimately have a time when their lifespan runs out. If he wants to be with Star Dream forever, he must become the world champion. Previously, he brought Star Dream onto the racetrack solely to help her gain confidence and overcome her psychological barriers. However, in reality, his passion for racing was not as strong as his love for modifications. He is inherently a rational person. This rationality made it hard for him to adapt to the adrenaline rush and brain fog of racing. But now his mindset has changed. He wants to be world-class. He wants to fulfill Star Dream's wish. He wants to achieve immortality together with Star Dream. The hand of the divine, the eye of the divine, the heart of the divine, and the modification knowledge that transcends this era, Su Chun murmured to himself, clenching his fists. He worried that his skills might not be enough. But the heart of the divine would complete his techniques. He was concerned that Star Dream's performance might not keep up. But his modification knowledge and the hand of the divine would allow Star Dream to grow rapidly. He feared not knowing the details of his opponents. Yet the information from the eye of the divine would grant him insight into everything. He had already possessed all the conditions to become the world champion. Although the road ahead may not be smooth, the world championship is by no means an unattainable fantasy. Having already crossed over, he should let go of any thoughts of being passive. Suchin chuckled at himself. In his past life, he was too passive to stay in a top club. If he hadn't resigned, that top driver probably wouldn't have lost their life. In this life, for Star Dream and for himself, he could no longer afford to be passive. Master, Star Dream, who was walking ahead, turned around and waved at him with a smile. What are you mumbling about? Walk a little faster. Queen's sister said we're having a feast tonight, so we should head back early. Okay, Suchin replied, quickening his pace to catch up. With his mindset quietly shifting, the wheels of fate began to turn at this moment. A chief modifier from another world would declare war on all top drivers and Mech girls in the Mech Girl era, aiming for the world class. Do you want to know if there are any upcoming public competitions? At the dinner table, Queen looked at Su Chun with surprise. She glanced again at Xingming, who was happily devouring a chicken leg with her right hand and a bunch of fries with her left, frowned and said, "There's a city championship in half a month, on August 1st, and only the top 3 from all city tournaments are qualified to participate. However, Xingming's condition probably won't allow her to compete again within a month, right?" Suchin looked at the status on Xingming's panel and replied, "Just now at the maintenance center, the divine blessing not only healed Xingming's injuries, but her status is also fully restored. It was previously exhausted, unable to compete, and now it's changed to full of spirit, suitable for competition. The machine girl's condition declines after each competition based on the intensity, similar to how human athletes cannot participate in multiple competitions in a short span. They also need maintenance and rest. In the case of serious injuries like Xingming's at the city championship, considering treatment and recovery, she basically won't be able to compete for about a month. Therefore, moving forward, well-known drivers usually have more than one machine girl by their side. This is because the competition intensity is increasing. If one machine girl competes in Event A, she cannot continue to compete in Event B. Another machine girl is needed to step in to avoid affecting the accumulation of competition points for the year. Generally, having 3 machine girls is enough for a driver to aim for world-class competitions. Of course, some wealthy individuals like to surround themselves with numerous companions. However, machine girls with ambition and goals do not accept such wealthy drivers. A driver's energy is limited. The more machine girls there are, the less care and resources can be distributed. Compared to these merely wealthy individuals, machine girls prefer to choose drivers with potential who are not overly frivolous. Are you sure? Queen had never heard that the divine blessing could restore a machine girl's condition, but seeing that Xingming's injuries had healed, she believed it a little. I'll get the equipment to test Xingming in a moment. If everything checks out, you can participate in the city championship at the beginning of August. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly changed the subject. The city championship will be full of skilled competitors, so be careful not to get beaten up. Suchan wasn't fazed by this warning and smiled, nodding. The main thing is to experience it. Only through competing with experts can I learn new things. He had a laid-back attitude towards competition results, and wasn't he eager for quick success? After all, he and Xingming had decades of opportunities. They weren't short on time to build their strength. Humph, your mindset is quite good. Queen pouted. But a hint of shadow crossed her eyes. Tomorrow you'll be facing the modification team from Night Voice. Are you scared? Scared? Suchin was taken aback. He was the chief modifier in his country. What was there to be afraid of? His only concern was that in this world, he lacked qualifications and certificates. But he had real skills. As long as the modifiers from Night Voice still had some pride, and as long as it was purely about modification skills, he could outshine those modification masters without a trace. I just want to ask one thing, Suchin said as he wiped his mouth with a wet tissue. Are the modifiers from your Night Voice team thick-skinned? Queen took a moment to process his words before finally understanding what Suchin meant. She smiled lightly, giving Suchin a sense of reassurance. They were all master-level figures, and any one of them was older than him by at least 2 decades. It was impossible for them to bully someone younger. As long as his theories could convince them, that would be enough. Suchin nodded. In the modification industry, older individuals certainly had more experience, but the fundamental principle of the one who achieves is the teacher still applied. He just hoped that the world's modifiers weren't a bunch of arrogant and conceited people. Encountering such individuals would be quite troublesome. After all, those who commit the sin of arrogance tend to share a common trait. They are often deaf and blind. Chapter 61. Night Modification Team. The next day, after a simple breakfast made by Queen herself, Suchin and Xingming took Queen's helicopter to the headquarters of Night's Voice. Throughout the journey, Queen was tense, while Suchin remained calm. She was the one who was nervous for him. Jessica, on the other hand, looked like she was waiting for a show. The day before, she had relayed Queen's exact words to the modification team. The team leader, Master James, was stunned for a long moment, then burst into laughter, slamming his hand on the table and cursing about the absurdity of a black market modifier without a certification wanting to challenge their master team. However, they were now following the lady's orders to take responsibility for Queen's modification. Therefore, it was necessary to address Queen's concerns, ensuring she wouldn't be swayed by such a rogue modifier. They also aimed to help Queen more willingly accept the modifications. Thus, they decided to take the precious time to confront this arrogant, unlicensed modifier, making it clear that the reputation of Night's Voice was not something just anyone could touch. At 10 in the morning, in a luxurious yet solemn conference room of Night's Voice, all the modifiers from Queen's modification team were seated at a long conference table. They were all wearing uniforms with the Night's Voice emblem, and the youngest among them was in their 40s. Almost every modifier had more than 5 medals hanging on their chests, all earned from participating in various prestigious modification competitions, symbolizing their identity and strength. Mr. James, I don't understand why we have to make such a fuss over this. He's just a minor character, one modifier complained to James, who was seated at the head of the table. I was planning to take my yacht out for fishing today, and now I have to attend this nonsensical meeting. Even sending our apprentices would be enough to handle that clueless little brat. James adjusted his white gloves and replied slowly. Do you think the lady is unaware of this matter? We are here to assure her, and to inform Queen, that we take Queen's modification seriously and will not allow anyone to interfere. It is precisely because our attitudes differ that I am the one in charge, while you are just modifiers in the team. As soon as he spoke, everyone exchanged glances and fell silent. They are a modification team called Night, hired by a certain organization. The pay is high, and the work is quite easy. Currently, they only need to work when it comes to modifications for Queen. The rest of the time, they just play. Apart from this organization, they probably won't find a more comfortable job. James mentioned that attitude is very important. If one becomes complacent, getting kicked out is not far away. Mr. James, Queen has arrived. An apprentice knocked on the door to remind him. James nodded, signaling everyone to be quiet. The modification specialists in the night team looked towards the door, hearing the approaching sound of high heels. Soon after, Queen entered, dressed in a long black dress, accompanied by a young person, followed by a catgirl-type mechanized being. Is this the modification specialist Queen mentioned? Isn't he too young? So arrogant? Coming to challenge the night team's specialists without even having fully matured? Ridiculous. The night team's specialists couldn't help but scoff at Suchin. Although they wanted to maintain basic decorum and calmness, disdain and contempt still emerged in their expressions. Suchin also curiously observed this group of specialists. Middle-aged men. Old men, all old men. It's truly speechless. Having lived so long, their understanding of modifications is still like that of a child. Had they lived all these years as if in a dog's body? He wanted to maintain an appearance of calm and humility, but his confusion and disdain still seeped through his eyes. 2 groups of modification specialists representing their respective worlds, T1 and T0 levels, stared at each other. Clearly separated by a vast cultural gap, Queen noticed the disdain and contempt the night team held for Suchin. Her demeanor grew colder. her slightly furrowed brows radiating a chill, and her sharp gaze cut through the meeting room like knives. However, her fingers, which she kept tightening and loosening, betrayed her inner tension. Queen felt a bit regretful. She seemed to have made a mistake by involving Su Chun in this conflict for her own sake. It was hard to imagine how much discomfort and setbacks Su Chun would face here today. Since Mr. Su Chun is here, let us get started. James, sitting in the main seat, cleared his throat and looked at Su Chun, eager to end this farce quickly. Mr. Su Chun, everyone here is a master-level modification specialist. Modifiers are divided into 6 levels: D, C, B, A, S, and X. The lowest level we have here is A. What I want to say is, if you wish to discuss Queen's modifications with us, you first need to demonstrate the capabilities expected of an A-level modifier. Queen's expression changed. Su Chun didn't he even have a modifier certification? Where would he prove he was A-level? Moreover, could Su Chun even be an A-level modifier? An A-level modifier wouldn't he have no business in the shop. What she cared about was Su Chun's respect and understanding toward her, as she believed Su Chun's theoretical knowledge of modifications was more advanced. As for the technical skills, although she had faith in Su Chun, she wasn't that arrogant. It takes decades of accumulation and requires innate talent to reach a top level. Just as she was pondering how to help Su Chun say a few words, he had already taken 2 steps forward, looking directly at James at the top, and said loudly, "May I ask what kind of skills you would like me to demonstrate? Is it modification experience, modification technology, modification theory, or my understanding of the vehicle system?" James was momentarily taken aback, then laughed. A laugh filled with a sense of helplessness and absurdity. From Su Chun's question, he could tell that Su Chun was a complete novice who knew nothing. He might not even be a real modifier. Queen was still too naive. It looked cold and desolate, but it was actually quite easy to deceive. However, that was fine. Today, the night team would show Queen who was the true professional and more trustworthy. It wasn't that complicated. Leaning back in his chair, he spread his hands. C and D level modifiers do not possess the ability to create modification cores. They can only see the vague attributes of the modification core. On the other hand, B-level modifiers and above can see the attributes of the modification core more clearly, accurately judge the categories and functions of basic modification modules, and have a higher success rate in synthesizing different levels of modification cores. For instance, S-level modifiers can clearly see the attributes of the modification core, perfectly judge the types of basic modules, and conduct preliminary evaluations of the attributes that can be enhanced by these modules. With an accuracy rate of less than 20 difference from machine detection, and a success rate of over 60 in producing blue modification cores. With the highest capability of creating gold modification cores, he knew Su Chun knew nothing, so he explained in detail while observing Su Chun's expression. To his surprise, Su Chun remained calm, showing no signs of panic. So he leaned forward, fixed his gaze on Su Chun's eyes, and said solemnly, "We will provide 10 materials. If you can create a blue modification core from these 10 materials, we will acknowledge your capability as an A-level modifier. And you may explain your understanding of the Queen modification plan. A single material is enough." Su Chun extended a finger. James was stunned, and the other modifiers also changed their expressions. But soon someone laughed out loud. "Arrogant. But I've never seen someone so absurdly arrogant before." Was he implying that his probability of creating a blue modification core was 100? Don't say that. He might not even be able to produce one. James wanted to laugh as well, but as the person in charge and an S-level modifier, he couldn't afford to laugh. He had to remain serious. Clearing his throat, he commanded silence. Quiet. He ordered all the modifiers to hush and instructed an apprentice to fetch the materials. Even though Su Chun claimed that 1 material was enough, he still had the apprentice bring 10. If he couldn't produce a blue modification core from 10 materials, then Queen would see the reality. The night team prepared a workbench for Su Chun, and soon 10 materials were laid out on the workbench. All basic modification modules. Su Chun stood in front of the workbench, putting on his gloves and pretending to prepare for the task. Queen watched Su Chun's back, hearing the faint sounds of mockery and laughter, feeling both guilty and pained. Suddenly, she felt someone hold her hand. Turning her head, she saw Xingming looking at her with concern. "Sister Queen, don't worry. I believe Master won't do anything without preparation." Xingming also glanced at the man standing at the workbench. He was much younger than all the modifiers in the conference room. Yet, only he could give her a sense of reassurance. "I know Master. If he isn't confident, he wouldn't easily make promises. Since he is standing here, it means he has considered the upcoming challenges, and what we need to do now is to trust him." Meow. After hearing Xingming's words, Queen's tension and worries gradually eased. She clenched her fist, looking at Su Chun's back with increasingly firm determination. "Okay, I believe in him." For Su Chun, using basic modification modules to create modification cores was like handling pre-prepared meals. For instance, to make a braised pork rice bowl, all he needed to do was heat the packaged pre-prepared braised pork, pour it over the rice, and just like that, the dish was ready. Wasn't this something even a fool could do? He didn't understand why such a simple task had a success rate attached to it. The modifications he provided to Xingming included a complete selection of materials and a modification process, with extremely high accuracy. The attributes of the produced modification cores were exceptional in every aspect. He casually picked up a blue engine modification module and a blue weight reduction modification module from the materials. This engine modification module would enhance the speed and burst attributes of the modification core while lowering some stability and endurance, increasing speed and burst range to 78 and 34. But due to its average quality, it was greatly influenced by other modification modules. Su Chun held the engine modification module and faced James. As soon as he finished speaking, the chatter in the conference room came to an abrupt halt. The disdain and casualness on James's face vanished, replaced by astonishment and shock. Su Chun was right. He could see the attributes and modification direction of this basic modification module, which were nearly identical to what Su Chun had described. However, he didn't understand what Su Chun meant by poor quality. What did it mean to be greatly affected by other modification modules? Wasn't the quality of this modification module just blue? What other quality could there be? What he didn't know was that, in Su Chen's eyes, blue was merely the basic quality of the modification module and core. Beyond this basic quality, there were distinctions of poor, average, good, excellent, and perfect. All 10 materials in front of him were of average and poor quality, with not a single good one among them. Su Chen looked down on pre-prepared meals. No matter how perfectly packaged, they couldn't compare to a 5-star chef's personal touch. Then, what about the other basic module in your hand? James asked proactively. He was wondering if Su Chun had just gotten lucky and randomly guessed correctly. This is a basic weight reduction module, primarily focused on reducing the weight of the chassis. But the quality is quite poor. Su Chen fiddled with another basic module and said slowly, the attribute is to enhance speed while reducing stability and cornering performance. With a speed increase of about 45, and it is also significantly affected by other modification modules. James's expression tightened. He no longer underestimated Su Chun. This young man truly had some skills. I would like to ask you a question, he said, rubbing his watch thoughtfully. What do you mean by being significantly affected by other modification modules? How did you figure that out? Oh, Su Chun smirked, helplessly saying, you all didn't know? I thought a top modification team would be aware of these things. He mimicked James's earlier gesture and shrugged. Let me give you an example. Suppose the attribute of Module A is to enhance speed, and Module B enhances cornering. If both are significantly affected by other modules, it would result in the final speed and cornering attributes of the synthesized modification core not meeting expectations, while their negative effects might exceed expectations. Oh, I see. James adjusted his glasses and pondered. We encounter this situation when we modify as well, but we only consider it as a probabilistic attribute loss, which is very normal. Occasionally, there are cases with minimal or no attribute loss, but we haven't yet figured out what causes that. Furthermore, if A is a purple quality module and B is a blue quality module, the final synthesized core will be of blue quality. Generally, the attributes of the B module will be inherited without any loss, but it will lose most of its attributes. When not accounting for costs, we use this method to enhance the attributes of the final modification core. However, this combination significantly reduces the success rate of synthesizing the core. James had already regarded Su Chun as a true modifier and was exchanging insights with him. The other modifiers in the conference room looked serious and took notes diligently. James was an S-level modification master. Any experience he shared was a valuable asset to them. Su Chun observed the respectful attitude of the modifiers and couldn't help but smile internally. What could be the reason? It was merely a coincidence of having obtained high-quality basic modification modules. The blue quality modification core synthesized from a purple basic module and a blue basic module was entirely reliant on the higher quality of the purple module to retain the attributes of the blue module, at the cost of sacrificing most of the purple module's attributes. It seemed impressive, but in reality, it was not worth the loss. Looking at these scribbling modifiers, he felt a sense of sadness. Sad for the modifiers of this world, and sad for the drivers and mechas of this era. These modifiers were, to put it simply, just a group of processing chefs for pre-made dishes. All they knew was how to combine pre-packaged ingredients to make the resulting dish slightly more palatable. They didn't truly understand cooking, they knew nothing about modifications. They were just a group of outsiders looking down from above. Su Chun felt bored and disappointed. He initially had some expectations for today's debate. However, discussing with these modifiers felt completely unequal, lacking the sense of a strong confrontation. He had little hope of persuading these modifiers. They were a group of individuals who didn't understand modifications. Their thoughts were merely superficial. And what they did couldn't even be called modifications. It should be referred to as patchwork. It was like a firearms engineer trying to explain airplanes and artillery to an expert from the Iron Age. It was just talking past each other. No amount of technical details would help because they simply couldn't understand. Nonetheless, the necessary efforts still had to be made. Su-chan merged two basic modification modules right in front of James and all the modifiers. In less than 10 seconds, he created a blue modification core. The cube-shaped modification core slowly rotated in his hand, and its light blue glow reflected in his indifferent eyes, resembling a flickering flame. Everyone stared in disbelief at this scene. Did it really take just one material to succeed? And the speed of production was astonishing. The air seemed to freeze at that moment. The entire conference hall was silent. Under normal circumstances, producing a modification core would take 2 to 3 hours. During this time, modifiers would need to continuously transfer energy to the basic modules to facilitate their fusion. This was also why the output of modification cores was so challenging to increase. Some modifiers might not even be able to synthesize one core in a day, and the production of a single modification core might consume several or even dozens of materials, which kept the prices high. But what did they see? A perfect modification core produced in less than 10 seconds. Sir Su-chan, James didn't even realize his voice was trembling. He awkwardly said, "Could you please make another modification core? I wanna," without him needing to finish. Su-chan casually picked up 3 basic modules and created another modification core. This time it took a bit longer, but still less than half a minute. As they watched the modification core slowly rotating in Su-chan's hands, a series of gasps echoed through the conference room. "How about now? Do I have the qualifications to discuss the Queen's modification plan with you?" Su-chan tossed 2 blue modification cores onto the table. He couldn't be bothered with those pre-made dishes. They were nothing but garbage. "Yes, you absolutely have the qualifications to discuss the Queen's modification plan with us," James replied eagerly. He had no idea what Su-chan's situation was, but based on what Su-chan had demonstrated, he was at least an A grade. Whether he was S grade would depend on whether he could produce purple and gold modification cores. The absence of a certification was likely a matter of information. How could an A grade modifier not have a certification? As for Su-chan's youth, that could only be attributed to exceptional talent. After all, the main ability of a modifier depends on their innate awakening. Although it can be improved through training, the enhancement is very limited. And the upper limit has already been set, making further breakthroughs almost impossible. "Sister Queen, did you see that?" Star Dream placed her hands on her hips, lifting her chin with pride. "I told you Moss would definitely have no problem, meow." In fact, she wasn't entirely sure that Su-chan would gain the approval of those old men. After all, older humans tend to be stubborn, and these were so-called masters. She simply trusted Su-chan. That's what a spiritual contract is like. Even if Su-chan claimed he could pluck the stars from the sky, she would believe him without considering the feasibility of such a statement. Queen remained silent, clenching her fists to calm her heartbeat and breathing. She seldom praises others, as there are very few people who can truly win her admiration. She initially thought that the confrontation between Su-chan and the night modification team would be a futile struggle. Unexpectedly, Su-chan actually created a glimmer of hope for her. The projector screen descended in the center of the conference room, displaying the PPT of Queen's modification plan. James explained the entire plan to Su-chan, even feeling a bit smug. "Mr. Su-chan, as you can see, our modification plan has no issues. We, the night team, are fully committed to transforming Queen into a powerful and perfect machine girl. The voice of the night is also generous in investing various resources into Queen." Su-chan had already reviewed the modification plan beforehand. Looking at it again still made him feel nauseous, as if he had eaten something disgusting. The seemingly glamorous and comprehensive modification was merely a mindless accumulation of materials, fitting the thought process of pre-prepared meal processors. "What do you think of our modification plan? Feel free to raise any concerns." Su-chan took a deep breath. He wanted to say that their modification plan was just a pile of garbage mixed with maggots, but he held back. Since he wanted to negotiate, it was best not to provoke the other party. Everyone should discuss calmly to secure more rights for Queen. "I don't quite agree with your modification plan." Su-chan shook his head. "Oh." James raised an eyebrow. "Please share your reasoning." "Queen is an explosive-type machine girl. Your modification emphasizes comprehensiveness but completely obliterates Queen's personality," Su-chan said lightly. "Your plan should focus on enhancing Queen's speed and explosiveness, while also improving other attributes without trying to cover everything. If you modify her according to my suggestion, Queen's explosiveness and speed should already exceed 100. That is how her potential can be fully realized." In the conference room, the modifiers exchanged glances, mostly filled with disbelief and confusion. However, Queen looked at Su-chan's back with sparkling eyes. Yes, this was exactly what she wanted. Ultimate speed and explosiveness. The freedom to charge forward without considering anything else. Just feeling the wild wind howling around her. When did she start to forget? She felt like she had forgotten many things, some of which were inherent in her bloodline. James furrowed his brow deeply and pondered for a long time before slowly saying, "Mr. Su, I don't understand your thoughts. No matter what type of machine girl Queen is, a comprehensive enhancement is always better than specializing in just 2 attributes." Specializing in only 2 attributes is a form of bias, and that is not a perfect machine girl. What the lady wants us to create is a perfect machine girl, a so-called hexagonal warrior in gaming terms, with no weaknesses. This is the goal of our knight modification team. Therefore, we temporarily sacrificed Queen's explosive power and speed, but we will make up for it through modifications later. Ultimately, we will ensure that all her performance levels are at an exceptionally high standard. James and the knight modification team's goals are easy to understand. Suchin could grasp it as well. They just wanted an all-rounder with straight A's. However, due to the nature of modifications, increasing one attribute to an A will inevitably cause other attributes to drop. This aligns with the characteristics of various racing cars from the past. A car that excels in straight-line acceleration will inevitably have poor cornering control, simplistic aerodynamics, and unbalanced weight distribution. Meanwhile, a muscle car, while boasting strong power and stability, will have heavy handling, noticeable body roll in turns, and insufficient steering precision. In their pursuit of turning Queen into a straight A student, they overlooked and suppressed her potential to excel in explosive power and speed, which could have guaranteed her a place in prestigious ranks. Which has a brighter future, being excellent in all subjects or specializing to the extreme. Without a doubt, it is the latter. Concentration is the key to reaching the peak. There are no perfect racing cars, only perfect racing cars and drivers. The purpose of a driver is to become one with the car, to complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. The car's shortcomings are compensated by the driver's skills, and the car's advantages are continuously enhanced by the driver. That is true racing. Unfortunately, the modifiers of the knight modification team do not understand this at all. Or rather, many drivers, modifiers, and even the machine girls themselves in this world do not understand. The idea of comprehensive enhancement may already be deeply ingrained. Chapter 64, 3 months, combined. Since you want a machine girl that is excellently balanced in all aspects, why not choose a machine girl with a radiant star emblem? Suchun tried to keep his tone calm. When a machine girl levels up, not all attributes increase equally. For speed-type machine girls, there is a tendency to enhance speed attributes. The machine girls with radiant star emblems, like Xingming, have slight improvements in all 5 attributes because they play a supportive role within the team, and their special abilities that awaken in the future will also lean towards support. James shrugged and said casually, these types of machine girls can hardly ever be in the main position. It has to be the flowing flame star emblem or the thunder star emblem. Their awakened special skills are designed to compete for the main position. Su Chun twitched the corner of his mouth. So, there's actually a hierarchy among machine girl types in this world? Just like how the main position looks down on support characters in games, right? Have you ever considered that the reason Queen can't be activated now might be due to your modification plans being unsuitable? Absolutely not. James firmly rejected, with conviction. We've encountered many situations like Queen's. As long as we enhance all attributes to a balanced level in the later stages, she will naturally activate. So you can rest assured about this. In any case, our modification plan is in line with the universally recognized standards of the times. There's no problem at all. At this point, Su Chun had already discerned the issues with these modifiers. There was arrogance, certainly. After he demonstrated his abilities, that arrogance had hidden away. But besides arrogance, there was also stubbornness and obstinacy. Even after he showcased his skills, these modifiers remained set in their ways. They were like old feudalists, firmly stuck in their beliefs. Su Chun could understand this. Once old concepts are fully formed and trendset in society, they cannot accept or tolerate new ideas unless the impact of the new concepts is strong enough to tear them apart. Only then will these decayed souls slowly awaken. It's impossible to just call out and expect these leading modification masters of the era to heed his words. He didn't have any charm to lower their intelligence. Su Chun sighed, feeling a deep sense of helplessness. If I want to participate in the Queen's modification plan, what conditions do I need to meet? Su Chun tried to lead the conversation more gently. If this continues, you will completely extinguish Queen's characteristics, and she will become useless. Nonsense. James's voice had already taken on a hint of anger. Mr. Su Chun, you may be a genius, and I respect and treat you as such. But that does not mean you can casually insult the modification plans created by our knight team. Queen will not be rendered useless. She will become a perfect machine girl. He loosened his tie, took a breath, and lowered his voice. As for participating in Queen's modification plan, you must at least present your A-level modification master certificate and gain recognition from the voice of the knight group. At least, our knight team does not have the authority to allow you to join. Su Chun helplessly rubbed his forehead. It was like a tiger trying to eat the sky, with no way to take a bite. He had thought about asking them to provide golden modules so he could directly craft the golden modification core himself, or even better, platinum or diamond modification cores, to showcase more of his value. But he wasn't confident, and this move was too risky. He hadn't been in this world for long and had no background. What if he got caught and put under house arrest, tied to an electric chair, and shocked without being able to craft the modification core? What would he do then? just as he was pondering whether there were any other options. Jessica suddenly appeared at the door of the conference hall and knocked. Silence, the lady has arrived. The air in the conference room seemed to freeze the moment Jessica's voice fell silent. All arguments, all fiery gazes abruptly ceased. The modifiers, including James, who had just been arguing passionately, seemed to have been pressed on pause, their bodies instinctively tensing, eyes involuntarily drifting toward the doorway. With the sound of high heels, a tall woman entered the room, dressed in a beige tailored suit. Her thin lips were slightly pursed, her nose was straight and noble, and her pair of phoenix eyes held no emotion. This woman could only be considered above average in appearance. Yet she exuded a unique aura that created psychological pressure just by standing in front of her. Looking at the woman who had stopped in her tracks, Suchin knew that this was the mysterious lady from the Night Voice group, as well as the future pilot of Queen. My name is Chin Xian, the T1 ace driver of the Night group. Chin Xian scrutinized Suchun for a moment and continued, Queen is not my primary machine, but rather the third one I am preparing to join as a substitute when the others are not in optimal condition. I heard your discussion earlier. Mr. Suchun, you are very talented, but I must make it clear that my first two machines were modified by the Night team, and they are both highly capable. I believe that if they can perform well, then Queen can certainly do the same, don't you think? Chin Xian carried herself with the air of a young lady, her aura reflecting years of privilege and high status. James and the modifiers from the Night team dared not speak, even avoiding direct eye contact with Chin Xian. But Su Chun was unfazed. He had encountered many affluent individuals, some of whom even sought his expertise in modifications. Thus, he maintained a composed demeanor as he met Chin Xian's gaze. To be honest, I think the modification plans of the Night team are complete nonsense. He stopped pretending and laid his cards on the table. Since the old-fashioned individuals were so stubborn, he saw no need to maintain basic decorum. James's face flushed with anger as he pointed at Su Chun, but couldn't muster the courage to shout. All the modifiers around glared at Su Chun with fury. In the quiet room, the only sound was the movement of high heels. It was Queen taking a small step towards Su Chun. Xing Ming had already rushed to Su Chen's side, spreading her arms like a mother hen protecting her chick, glaring fiercely at the surrounding modifiers. Her teeth bared and cat ears trembling as if ready to bite at any moment, despite lacking any real intimidation. It seems Queen is quite worried about you. Chin Xian noticed the subtle concern and panic on Queen's face. She looked at Su Chun in surprise, the corners of her mouth curling up slightly. Queen is a very unique machine, with distinctive performance and personality. Very few can catch her eye, but they are definitely not ordinary people. Just like me. I am an S-class driver. Chin Xian smiled with a hint of self-admiration. Perhaps it was my uniqueness that led Queen to sign a contract with the Night Voice group. Chin Xinduan paused and said, since Queen has recognized you in terms of modification, it shows that you are indeed exceptional. Therefore, I am willing to give you a chance. I have looked at your information, and you do not have a modification specialist certificate yet. If you can obtain an A-level modification specialist certificate within 3 months, Queen is willing to follow you, and you can take her directly. How does that sound? The meeting hall fell silent again, and James and the other modification specialists looked at Chin Xian with incredulous expressions. Jessica opened her mouth, as she probably understood the significance of what the lady was doing. But did Suchin really deserve such investment from her? After all, it was Queen, whom they had poured so many resources into. Moreover, she was a carefully selected, highly potential top-tier machine girl. Was Suchin really that special? 3 months? Suchin frowned slightly. Opportunities do not simply fall from the sky. He had learned that obtaining a modification specialist certificate requires sufficient study time. Just like in school, you cannot jump from elementary to middle school, nor from middle school to high school directly. Even with excellent grades, one could only skip 1 or 2 grades at most. Therefore, no matter what, he would need to attend classes for at least 3 years. Plus, he would have to go through a series of examinations. Where would he find the time to get certified in 3 months? Moreover, the certification process for modification specialists is not straightforward. It starts from D level, and you can only advance to C level after passing, progressing step by step. The time required for that would be considerable. Chin Xian noticed the confusion in Su Chen's eyes and explained, you have already demonstrated the basic abilities expected of an A-level modification specialist. Due to your connection with the Night Voice, we can immediately help you obtain a D-level modification specialist certificate. And the normally annual promotion assessments will be open for you once a month. This way, you could just reach A-level in 3 months. This is the best we can do at Night Voice Group. Of course. She shifted her tone. If you do not obtain the A-level certificate within 3 months, I hope you will join our modification team at Night Voice. However, you will no longer be able to interfere with Queen's modification plans. I appreciate talent, and we at Night Voice need someone like you even more. Your presence can bring more possibilities than just a fully equipped top-tier machine girl. I hope you seriously consider my sincerity. With the stakes laid out, Su Chun looked deeply at Qin Xian. No wonder she was the Lady of Night voice. Her demeanor was indeed different. When he first saw Qin Xian enter, he thought he would be kicked out directly. Qin Xian would certainly not be willing to change Queen's modification plans, and wouldn't he foolishly give him the contract for Queen. Her purpose in doing this was to use Queen as bait, trying to recruit him to join the Night team and work for Night Voice. Given the 3-month limit and using Queen as bait, it was clear that there would be significant challenges. The assessment was likely not as simple as it seemed and would require meeting several conditions. Nevertheless, Su Chen's gaze involuntarily turned towards Queen. It was as if there was a telepathic connection. Queen's deep, soulful eyes were also gazing at him. In that fleeting moment when their eyes met, time seemed to stand still. In his mind's eye, he saw a canary trapped in a cage, staring longingly at the blue sky that was just out of reach. She was silently lamenting, desperately struggling, yearning for true freedom. That unwillingness, that gaze filled with pain and hope, deeply shook Su Chen's heart. In his past life, as the chief racing car modifier, he only knew that cars would unleash their full potential under his hands. Cars were cold, lifeless machines, devoid of emotion. And he could not experience any praise from them. He had never imagined that one day, a girl who could transform into a racing car would look at him with such eyes. Queen was calling for his help. She did not want to wither away in that cage. A surge of indescribable emotion welled up in Su Chen's chest. Not solely due to the assistance Queen and Xingming had provided him during this time. Anger? Sympathy? Or the responsibility he bore as a chief modifier in the face of this absurdity. 3 months, no matter how difficult it was. He could not bear to watch Queen lose her most precious talent. That cage that locked away freedom, he would tear it apart with his own hands. All right. Su Chun withdrew his gaze and fixed his eyes on Qin Xian, his voice low and resolute. I accept. Chapter 65. Saying goodbye, miss. Have you made your decision? Are you really going to reward him with Queen? Jessica and Qin Xian stood side by side in front of the conference room window, watching Su Chun and Xingming walk towards the manor, still finding it hard to believe. It's decided, Qin Xian replied in Dondak. As an experienced employee, you should know how difficult it is to achieve an A-level modifier qualification in 3 months. Almost no one can do it. But what if? If he really manages to do it, what if Queen is given to him? Jessica asked hesitantly. Qin Xian's eyes darkened slightly, a hint of indifference flashing in their depths. I don't lack a top-tier mech girl. Right now, Queen is a scrap car and cannot start at all. The other 2 top-tier mech girls in her possession also went through a period of being unable to start. Those 2 mech girls from the Luyan Star emblem experienced a similar phase, but their downtime was very short. Queen is like a stubborn child. No matter what the Night modification team does, she stands her ground, refusing to budge. Qin Xian knew that Queen was fundamentally unwilling to cooperate with the modifications proposed by the Night team. The other 2 mech girls, in a sense, had compromised in the end. Sometimes she really did not understand. Why did a mere group of tools have to be entangled in so many unnecessary emotional complexities? Why did they even need a driver to accommodate their feelings? She had no time for that, nor the patience. Besides Queen, she had other backup mech girls undergoing modifications. Whoever can modify it to meet her standards first will become her 3rd machine companion. Therefore, the Queen is dispensable to her. In less than a minute, Su Chun can create 2 blue modification cores. Although it's uncertain if luck plays a part, this alone makes his value far exceed that of the Queen. Miss, should our team continue modifying the Queen? James and the other modifiers exchanged glances and cautiously asked, or should we leave the Queen alone for the next 3 months? Of course, we need to continue the modifications. Qin Xian turned to look at James, casting a shadow over him as she stood with her back to the sunlight. You are already one of the top modification teams in the country, and you still haven't figured out why the machine companions can't start during the modification process? Don't you feel guilty? You need more modifications to understand this matter. Regardless of Su Chen's presence, the Queen's modifications must continue. Even if I no longer need other machine companions in the future, will you have nothing to do then? No. There are many machine companions under the Knight's voice group agreement, and they are all your modification targets. Understand? Understood. James wiped the sweat from his forehead and stared at his toes. Being with this young lady was indeed a tremendous pressure, especially those frightening eyes that seemed to view everyone as mere objects, whether they were machine companions or their assistants. This is where I can only take you. At the Iron Gate, the Queen gazed at Su Chun and Xingming. When her eyes fell on Su Chun, a hint of imperceptible tenderness quietly blended into her usual cold demeanor. Queen, I have a question. As the gate of the manor slowly closed, separating the 2 worlds like a cage, Su Chun looked through the iron bars and met the Queen's gaze. Why did you join the Knight's voice initially? Now that they have made it impossible for you to start, shouldn't you have the right to terminate the agreement? The Queen frowned slightly, her mind filled with fragmented and vague memories. She recalled that Qin Xian had told her a lot back then, probably about how the Knight's voice would turn her into a top machine companion. Benefiting from the knight's voice's reputation and the praise of many predecessors, she signed the agreement. However, the modification plan from the knight's voice made her very uncomfortable, but other than that, they had not mistreated her. I guess I was blinded by the glamorous facade of a large group. The queen smiled bitterly. The agreement cannot be terminated because the knight's voice has not mistreated the machine companions. All their modifications meet or even exceed the standards. However, if I remain unable to start, they will actively terminate the agreement with me, and at that point, I will be free. She looked at Su-chun, her gaze pure and sincere. Thank you. Even though the modification plan you proposed was not accepted, I can feel your concern and intention regarding this matter. Becoming an A-level modifier in 3 months is difficult, so you don't need to put too much pressure on yourself. The focus should be on the upcoming competition. Isn't Queen's sister coming back with us? Xingming gazed at the queen through the bars, her small fists quietly clenching. She used to envy Queen so much for being able to provide a warm home for Su-chun, cook delicious meals, and solve the various problems they encountered. Yet, besides Su-chun, she often felt like a burden, unable to help at all. She longed to be a powerful machine girl like Queen. But today, she witnessed firsthand that even someone as strong as Queen could not control her own fate. Merely subjected to the discussions of the modifiers and young ladies as if she were a product. Even now, it felt like being trapped in a luxurious cage. The envy instantly vanished, leaving only an indescribable bitterness and discomfort in her heart. No, I can't. Queen shook her head gently, her voice soft. I signed a contract and must obey the orders of the group. You can continue to stay at my place and help take care of my Xianfeng. We can occasionally contact each other through our phones. She originally had a month off. However, this time off was used to arrange a meeting between the night team and Su-chun. So, her vacation was over. And she needed to cooperate with the work of the voice of night. But Mas and I don't have phones. Xingming suddenly grasped the railing, tears streaming down her face, and pleaded with the security personnel beside her. Please, let Queen's sister come with us. We want to sell her off. We want to go abroad. We don't have passports. If it's absolutely necessary, you can even install a tracker on us. Security, Su-chun. Queen smiled gently and reached through the railing to pat Xingming's head. Don't worry, it's not like we'll never meet again. I'll give you my number, and we can stay in touch. She borrowed paper and a pen from the security and neatly wrote down her number. When she handed the note to Su-chun, her fingertips also held a bank card. What is this? Su-chun was taken aback. I don't need money in the group. Queen insisted, shoving the note and the bank card into Su-chun's hands. You can't get far on the road to success without money. Although there's not much here, it's what I've saved for a long time. Queen's cheeks flushed slightly as she averted her gaze, seeming a bit shy. But soon, there was an added hint of determination and pride in her eyes. Su-chun, I'm a top-tier machine girl, used to a life of abundant resources. If one day I have the chance to be your machine girl, and you're still a poor boy, I want to let you take advantage of me. After saying that, she turned around without looking back. Do your best. Her cool voice drifted away in the wind, dissipating the unheard whispers. Go forth with Xingming. And help me see the broader sky. Chapter 66. Me? Help. Su-chun took Xingming to buy phones, one for each of them. The previous phone was a cheap knockoff that had long been outdated and often wouldn't turn on. This time, they bought a well-functioning phone from a reputable brand. However, he chose a flagship model for Xingming, complete with a cute cat-themed phone case, perfectly matching her style. Mas, does Queen think we're poor? Xingming pouted, holding her phone and typing Queen's number on the green bubble, still bothered by what Queen had said earlier. Su-chun couldn't help but chuckle. Given Queen's personality, it was obvious that such words were just a form of disguise or provocation, right? So, do you wish for Queen to become my mech partner? Of course I do. Xingming replied without hesitation. Queen is beautiful, kind, and performs well. If she becomes Mas's mech partner, I would be over the moon. Su-chun scratched his nose, feeling like he might be overthinking things. When he signed the soul contract with Xingming, he automatically placed her in the role of a girlfriend. If Xingming was the girlfriend, she should be upset about Queen, right? So here he was, nervously asking her this question after buying her a phone, while she was very happy. He didn't even know why he was nervous. He had never felt this way in his previous life. But Xingming didn't seem upset at all. Thinking about it, in this high-intensity racing world, it was normal for a driver to have more than one mech partner. For Xingming, accepting Queen was just a common thing. In fact, since she liked Queen a lot, she might even hope for Queen to be her partner. Realizing this, Su-chun let out a sigh of relief. Xingming probably didn't even understand what it meant to like someone. It was he who was being overly sentimental. Queen had said that on purpose. If she wanted to become our partner, then our upcoming tasks would be quite demanding. Su-chun's expression turned serious. The races couldn't be delayed, and he still needed to pass the modification technician exam. Suddenly, he felt like he had gone from idling to spinning like a top. The priority now was to understand what preparations were needed before the exam and what the specific content would be. Su-chun had a feeling that the exam content wouldn't be the modification knowledge from his previous life, but rather some chaotic things he hadn't encountered before. Moss. I get it. Xingming clenched her little fists and nodded earnestly. We need to make big money. Su-chun thought. She doesn't understand anything. He looked at the girl fiddling with her phone beside him and smiled helplessly. This was actually quite nice. It was better for her to stay pure and cute rather than face the schemes and rules that Queen dealt with every day. Moss. Queen just accepted my friend request. Xingming exclaimed. Su-chun glanced over and caught a glimpse of a lotus flower profile picture. The WeChat name was Happy Every Day. There was a sense of disconnection between the profile picture and the name. Xingming leaned over to Su-chun, made a cat paw gesture, and with one hand held her phone to take a selfie, then sent it to Queen. Ding dong. The reply came almost instantly. What did Queen say? Su-chun asked curiously. Meow. Queen said your nose hair isn't trimmed properly and is sticking out. Su-chun. He poked his nose and quickly pushed his nose hairs back. He thought to himself that Queen really observes everything so meticulously. Coming to this world with nothing and dealing with so many things lately, he indeed wasn't as refined as before. As if he had returned to the years of being an apprentice tuner. Perhaps, this is what it means to never forget one's Jushin. Su-chun honestly bought a set of nose and beard trimming tools, along with some daily skincare products at the supermarket at the community entrance. A man can be rough, but he can't be sloppy. When he reached the entrance of the building, he unexpectedly saw two acquaintances. Master, it's the fish fry dog. Xingming pointed at Yuming. Her voice loud. Yuming, who was inspecting the area at the building entrance, shuddered upon hearing the sound. He turned his head and glared back. The aloofness on his face disappeared, and he visibly flushed with anger. I've said it before, don't call me fish fry dog. Damn it, I have a name. I'm Yuming. Especially the U, and Ming for tomorrow. Meow, fish fry dog, got it. Xingming corrected herself. Alright, fish fry dog. Su-chun nodded, clearly knowing he was provoking him. You're really something. Yuming pointed at Su-chun, rolling his eyes in anger. It's really a cockpit that can accommodate two types of people. This Xingming and her driver are just two of a kind. Haha, master. Don't struggle anymore. Zhuing patted Yuming's shoulder nonchalantly. Your reputation as fish fry dog is already well known. Just admit you're a fried fish. It's not that embarrassing. She looked at Xingming beside Su-chun, her eyes filled with complex and subtle admiration. Nice to see you again, Xingming. Though I don't want to admit it, you're the one in the city championship. Zhuing gave Xingming a thumbs up. Then she changed her tone. However, the reason you can win is simply because this track is absurd. Future races 1T have just those few curves. When that happens, I 1T give you another chance. Just wait to be left far behind by me. Yuming had already been signaling to Zhuing, but the words were already out. After all, these words could be seen as a provocation, with a hint of stubbornness. Yuming just wanted to say a few good words to Su-chun. Xingming, however, didn't mind and nodded. Oh meow? I will work hard and strive not to be overtaken by you. Zhuing looked at Xingming in surprise, ready for a quarrel. But Xingming's humble attitude made her feel a bit embarrassed. Anyway, you're still quite impressive. She blushed, huffing and turning her head away, only occasionally glancing over with her peripheral vision. Cough. What I'm saying is that I acknowledge you as my opponent. In short, let us do our best. Yuming looked at Zhuing with a ghostly expression. Su-chun found the interaction between the two girls amusing. He then turned to Yuming. As a person from K-City and a professional driver of the Northern Wolves Club, why did you suddenly come to a community in Binzhou and seem to be waiting specifically for me? What do you want? Yuming seemed to finally come to his senses, flashing in front of Su-chun and enthusiastically shaking his hand. Su-chun, help. You must save the life of our Northern Wolves T2. He blinked and tried his best to squeeze out a tear. Unfortunately, his talent was limited, and after a long effort, he could only manage to produce a sticky eye discharge. You Northern Wolves T2 want me to save you? Su-chun pointed at himself, looking puzzled. What happened to you? Chapter 67. The olive branch of the Northern Wolves. Our Northern Wolves T2 are in a tough spot. Yuming sighed, his face full of frustration. You know, the provincial championship requires both individual and team points to meet the standards, so. Su-chun shook his head. No, I didn't know. Yuming, it's okay now you know. He continued. Originally, our T2 team's points were already a bit tight, and not long ago, one of our team members left to become a substitute for T1. So recently we've been thinking about recruiting a new member. But finding a new team member isn't easy. Those who are interested in us, we don't like, and those we like are from other teams. Just when we finally found someone we liked, guess what happened? Oh my, our club manager actually wants to push his nephew in. Isn't that just adding trouble for our team? Su-chun understood. So, Yuming's team was being filled with a connection. It was understandable, as it was a society based on relationships. How about it? Is your manager's nephew really that unskilled? Not sure if he is skilled or not. It said he has participated in a few underground races and won them all, but he hasn't competed in any public races. So what is the value in that? Yuming sat on a stone by the entrance, sighed. The key is that this person is really annoying, always showing off. And with dyed yellow hair, it's just irritating. The team leader is almost at her wit's end. So Suchin blinked. What does this have to do with me? Of course, it's related. Yuming cleared his throat and said seriously, do you know who the new team member we were looking at before was? No idea. It's you. Suchin. Oh. Yuming slapped his thigh, gritting his teeth. What kind of response is that? Are you a hen? Can you give a normal reaction? This is the recognition of Northern Wolves T2, the biggest club in K-City, not some small club. Do you understand? Not really. Seeing Su Chun playing dumb, Yuming decided to be straightforward. Here's the thing. The manager is pushing someone into our T2 team. And we can't refuse because he's the one in charge of recruitment, and this kid can indeed pass all the assessments. We don't like that yellow-haired kid. So we said we had already found a reserve team member, which is actually you and Xingming. And our team leader has the authority to review new members. So as long as you can outshine that yellow-haired kid, the manager won't be able to push him into our team. And our new team member will be you and Xingming. Yuming stood up and opened his arms. Suchin, Xingming. Welcome to our Northern Wolves T2 team family. For Suchun, the team felt quite distant. He had always been somewhat of a loner. In his past life, it was the same. He preferred to modify alone without other modifiers around. He always sleeps alone, eats alone, and travels alone. He goes to nightclubs alone to find women. Joining a team means there will be a group of teammates, so his first reaction is reluctance. But rationality tells him that if he wants to integrate into this world and become world-class, joining a team is essential. Because provincial championships are team competitions, one person cannot represent a team, and forming a club or team by oneself is a very troublesome matter. Just thinking about the potential series of problems makes him start to get a headache. So joining an excellent team might be a good choice. Suchun did not refuse or immediately agree. He just asked, so, what are the benefits of joining your Northern Wolves T2? Benefits? Isn't becoming a member of Northern Wolves T2 itself a benefit? Yuming was confused. Suchun rolled his eyes and pulled Xingming's small hand to bypass Yuming. Sorry. You're blocking the door. I'm going home. Has the capital's manipulation reached him? Truly reckless. Doesn't he know that once he gets manipulated, he will immediately stop working? Hey, don't go. Yuming quickly blocked Suchun, a flattering smile on his face. I was just joking. How could joining us Northern Wolves have no benefits? First, as long as you successfully sign the agreement, all the basic materials for upgrading your machine girl will be covered by the club. There's also a salary, a base of 100,000 every month, with rewards for winning championships on popular tracks, and these rewards do not overlap with competition prizes. Additionally, we have our own modification team, with various exclusive modification cores for Northern Wolves, all of which are superior to those on the market. Anything else? Suchin remained calm. As the top modifier in China, he had seen all kinds of rewards. In his past life, top teams offered him a salary of 2 million a month. Regardless of whether there were modification tasks or not, the money would be deposited into his account on time. He got so tired of such good treatment that he directly quit and laid flat. Well, there's. Yuming scratched his head, feeling a bit troubled. Suchin's reaction was completely different from what he had anticipated. Shouldn't he be particularly happy to join the Northern Wolves? Those street racers, like Lin Haijun, would be ecstatic if a decent club extended an olive branch, right? What is wrong with Suchun? However, it seems there aren't many other benefits to joining Northern Wolves. Just as Yuming was racking his brains, Zui Ying's gaze fell on the hands that Suchun and Xingming were holding. Suchin's large hand almost completely enveloped Xingming's delicate and fair hand, and she was being led without any sign of resistance. Their relationship is not ordinary. Looking at Xingming's outfit, it was clear that she was wearing a human casual outfit over an original factory racing suit. Zui Ying blinked and suddenly said, joining the Northern Wolves Club comes with exclusive Snow Wolf racing suits, which are especially beautiful. There are more than 10 styles in the Snow Wolf series, including hidden and novelty designs that you can't buy anywhere else. I'm currently wearing the competition-specific racing suit from the Snow Wolf collection. Zhu Ying twirled in front of Xingming and proudly said, how is it? Doesn't it look great? Xingming, with wide eyes, stared at the racing suit on Zhu Ying without blinking. The overall color is mainly matte white, with 2 sharp black lines extending from the shoulders down the sides of the body, resembling the outline of a wolf's spine. The waist features a fish scale-like silver carbon fiber texture, and the tight design accentuates the figure, making even someone like Zhu Ying appear to have a slim waist and a well-defined shape. The logo of the Northern Wolf Club is on the chest, featuring a simple sketch of a wolf's head, angular and imposing. Looks great. Xingming swallowed hard, her eyes wide with admiration. It's no wonder it was professionally designed. It's much better looking than those machine girl racing suits she saw in the shopping mall. Xingming quickly imagined herself wearing this racing suit, feeling like the most proud snow wolf in the extreme northern wilderness. and those machine girls standing in her way would be her prey. Wolves hunt. Oh woo. Su-chan watched Xingming, who was lost in her fantasy, flailing her arms and meowing, and couldn't help but chuckle. Yuming looked at Zhuing and said, "It's just a racing suit. What's the big deal? It's just a team uniform, just with a fancier design. You can relax." Zhuing rolled her eyes, thinking to herself that Yuming didn't understand anything. Was this a hassle? No, this was being clever, catering to tastes. Yuming held Su-chan's hand again, showing a sincere smile. "Su-chan, our club's benefits are limited for now. If you have other ideas, you can talk to our leader. As long as it's not too unreasonable, we can discuss it. The racing suits from your Snow Wolf series are quite nice," Yuming said. "What?" Su-chan leaned closer to Yuming's ear and said seriously in a lowered voice, "If you can give me the special edition suit in advance, then I'll consider checking out your club." Yuming stepped back in shock, staring at Su-chan with wide eyes. "Wait, are you agreeing to this? Just for a special edition racing suit? Damn, what a pervert." Chapter 68. Can't we just talk properly? Su-chan and Xingming returned to clean up after my Xianfeng, replenishing cat food and water. They then took a helicopter from the Northern Wolf Club to City K. City K is a medium-sized city neighboring Binzhou. It's slightly smaller than Binzhou, but is equally developed. In the office area of Northern Wolf T2. As soon as Su-chan walked in, he spotted a striking figure, a young man with yellow hair casually lounging on the office sofa, shoes off, one foot resting on the armrest, and the other on the coffee table. On the opposite sofa sat a petite machine girl, looking very quiet. Upon seeing a stranger approach, she immediately lowered her head and shifted to the corner of the sofa. As Su-chan observed her, her information appeared before him. Name, Chuanyan Star Emblem, Storm, Control Type, Speed, 58, Cornering, 70, Stability, 61, Burst, 45, Endurance, 37, Modification Core, Little Siren, Blue, Stigmata, none, Current Level, C, Special Talent, none, Frequency, 13 Driver, Huang Shishuan Status, Good. Minor Damage, Evaluation, on tracks with many corners and short distances, she is a sharp blade. Yo. Su-chan couldn't help but give a thumbs up after seeing the performance of this mech girl. Regardless of Huang Mao's abilities, his mech girl is quite good. Especially with the cornering attribute of 70, it clearly adheres to a strategy of maximizing strengths. Not to mention, at least the modifications Huang Mao made to the mech girl align with his aesthetic preferences. So, even though Huang Mao doesn't look impressive, Su-chan didn't underestimate him. "Big sis, Su-chan is here." Yuming burst through the door and rushed toward the inner office. His shout successfully woke Huang Mao, who was dozing on the sofa. He sat up, glanced at Su-chan with indifference, then lay back down. However, half closing his eyes. It was evident he was no longer asleep. Yuming quickly brought out a tall, elegant woman with golden hair. But she had dark circles under her eyes and looked very tired. However, as she approached Su-chan, her eyes fully opened and sparkled. "Hi, handsome. You must be Su-chan. You look clean and tidy, a real gem. I love kids like you who don't dye their hair and come from honest families." Li Yini warmly shook Su-chan's hand, her face filled with joy, but her words clearly took jabs at Huang Mao, who was pretending to sleep on the sofa. Su-chan glanced at Li Yini's golden hair, his mouth twitched, and he withdrew his hand. "I Haven T said I want to join. I just brought Xingming over to have a look." "No problem, feel free to look around. We, the Northern Wolves T2, have plenty of benefits that will surely satisfy you." After Li Yini spoke, she noticed Yuming giving her a look, and she followed him to a corner. The two seemed to be discussing something. Eventually, Li Yini gave Su-chan a strange glance before hurriedly leaving. Su-chan followed Yuming around the office area, where the infrastructure was quite complete, with a restaurant, gym, and modification room all available. However, there were a bit fewer people. "Where are the other members of your Northern Wolves?" Su-chan asked, looking at a few modifiers behind the glass door who were working on modification cores. "ISNT, the provincial preliminary competition coming up soon? Everyone is training to earn enough personal points in the preliminaries." Yuming sighed. "This year, we have a lot of pressure. If we can't enter the provincial competition, T2 will be disbanded by the club, which is why I'm so anxious about new recruits." Su-chan nodded and asked, "So these are your T2 modification team? What levels are the modifiers?" "Yes, 1A level and 3B level, provided by the club." When it comes to this, Yuming feels quite proud. The level tuners are considered masters among tuners, and there are hardly a few in the entire K-City. Having a powerful tuning team customize plans for machine girls is a privilege only available to club members. Moreover, outside, you have to spend a lot of money to buy the core tuning components yourself. Here, we just provide the basic tuning modules for the tuners. Su-chan couldn't agree with Yuming's words. After learning about the general perception of tuners in this world, he had already dismissed all of them. Anyway, he would never let these tuners modify Xingming. However, joining the Northern Wolves has another advantage. He can leverage his identity as a club member to talk to A-level tuners. Instead of collecting useless information like a green-headed fly, directly asking an A-level tuner is undoubtedly an excellent choice. Ultimately, one has to join a club, due to Yoming's influence. He has a decent impression of the Northern Wolves, so why not choose them? Besides, it seems Xingming really likes the team uniforms of the Northern Wolves. Su Chen felt a bit tempted. During their conversation, Li Yini came and went. She held a box, looking somewhat mysterious. Mr. Su Chen, this is the car outfit you wanted. She cleared her throat, glancing at Xingming, who was pressing her face against the glass door, and lowered her voice. This outfit is quite special. I strongly advise against the machine girl wearing it outside. It's only suitable for home use. You should understand the specific reasons. If you really have a special preference for her wearing it outside, then I suggest finding a deserted place at night. After saying that, she solemnly handed the box to Su Chen. This is our Northern Wolves team's sincerity, even though you haven't confirmed whether you really want to join us yet. The blonde guy on the sofa turned over and snorted coldly. Huang Shixuan, did you get a fishbone stuck in your throat? What are you snorting about? Yuming, who didn't like the blonde, shot back directly. Is it really worth it to idolize someone who makes machine girls suffer so much just to come in first? Ridiculous. The blonde guy sat up, his cold gaze piercing Su Chen's face like a knife. Hey, you little brat, don't think that winning a city championship is anything special. You got that by hurting machine girls. If you encounter me, I guarantee you won't even know how you died. Huang Shixuan, shut up. Yuming instantly got furious, pointing at the blonde and scolding. You don't even know the specifics of the situation, and you are just getting yourself all worked up. Are you trying to show off? You're not even a member of our Northern Wolves T2 yet. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll kick you out. TCH. The blonde seemed to have not heard the threat and remained unfazed. The fact that he hurt the machine girl is undeniable. I don't know what kind of nonsense he fed that machine girl. Do you not understand human language? Enough. A furious roar suddenly erupted, resonating throughout the entire building. Everyone, shut your mouths. Li Yini's face was dark, her hands on her hips, glaring fiercely at Huang Shixuan and Yuming. In that moment, she was far from the sleepy look she had earlier. She was a fully awakened lioness. The entire office area fell silent. The chandelier swayed slightly overhead, causing the water in the cup to tremble. Su Chen felt a buzzing in his head, while Xingming furrowed her brows and pressed her cat ears, banging her forehead against the tempered glass. Yuming stood right next to Li Yini, bearing the brunt of it. However, he seemed unfazed, casually wiping away the blood dripping from his ears. On the sofa, Huang Shixuan hugged his knees, looking pale and dazed for quite a while. Why are you shouting so loudly? He swallowed hard and stammered. Can't we just talk properly? Everyone was taken aback by the roar, including the boisterous blonde. Li Yini took a deep breath, gradually calming down, and a gentle smile appeared on her face. Right, let's discuss things calmly without always arguing. It hurts our harmony. What? Yuming tilted his head, looking at Li Yini, and shouted, Big sister, what did you say? I can't hear. Can you speak a bit louder? Li Yini remained silent, her expression somewhat forced. Meanwhile, Chasing Shadow skillfully took out a tube of cream from his bag, squeezed some into Yuming's ear, and handed him a hearing aid. Yuming shook his head, and the quiet world became colorful again. He laughed. Huh. I told you. Turns out my eardrums ruptured again. Ha ha. Su Chen looked at Yuming with a strange expression. The use of again was quite fitting. It seemed Yuming had been dealing with his hearing issues for quite some time. However, thinking back to the last time when a cracked jawbone healed overnight, he felt reassured. Medical technology in this world was highly advanced. A ruptured eardrum was as trivial as a cut on a finger. The medication Chasing Shadow had just applied was likely meant for repairing eardrums, and the transition with the hearing aid was quite well prepared. Clearly, this was true love. With Yuming back to normal, Li Yini continued. Huang Shixuan, Su Chen. One of you is recommended by the manager, and the other is a talent recognized by our team. Both meet the recruitment criteria for the Northern Wolf team. However, we don't need a substitute, and we don't have resources for an extra person, so ultimately, only one of you can join the team. She pointed to herself. As the captain of T2, I have the authority to review new recruits. The method of exercising this authority is quite simple. When there are 2 reserve candidates, I will determine who can truly join the team. This requires sufficient basis, which means you both will have to compete in a match to decide the winner. If Su Chen had heard this earlier, he would have voluntarily withdrawn. He wasn't desperate to join the Northern Wolf team. At worst, he would pay for the Snow Wolf team uniform and simply remove the wolf logo on it. He believed that Northern Wolf T2 wouldn't mind if a machine girl only wore the uniform at home. But now, due to some words from the blonde, he had changed his mind. He felt a bit angry. This anger is not just due to slander and misunderstanding, but also because of the denial from others regarding Xingming's efforts. It's as if Xingming winning the championship was entirely forced by this driver, when in fact, it was Xingming who mustered the courage to fight for it on her own. This is Xingming's glory. She doesn't need any sympathy and will not accept any distortion of the truth. Well, Huang Shixuan has snapped out of the days from being yelled at by Li Yini and has once again donned a cocky demeanor. Just right. I also want to see if this bully driver, who wins by oppressing the machine, can achieve champion status again on a proper racing track. In racing, the most important factor is teamwork, followed by skill, and only then the performance of the machine. Squeezing the machine may yield a championship once, but it cannot guarantee perpetual victory, let alone world-class status. Here we go again. Li Yini frowned. Some people's thoughts are just stubborn and deeply rooted. Even after watching the news, they still feel there is some hidden agenda. Huang Shixuan is such a person. He adheres to the principle of seeing is believing and hearing is deceiving, yet he cannot accept any words from others. To put it nicely, he has his own opinions and is unwavering. To put it bluntly, he is extremely self-centered and rigid in his thinking. Just as she was about to say something, Su Chen raised his hand. Su Chen fixed his gaze on Huang Shixuan, his expression slightly cold. Recruiting team members for the club is a very cautious matter, especially since Beifong Wolf T2 is at a critical juncture right now. Therefore, I believe one race is not enough to determine who can truly join the team. How about this? He said lightly. Before the provincial championships, there will be a total of 7 open races, including the city championship, city king competition, and 5 provincial qualifiers. Points can be accumulated in these 7 races, so let us see who has qualified points in the end. And who has the highest points will be the next team member. Once he finished speaking, both Li Yini and Yu Ming were stunned, except for Huang Shixuan. There is no doubt that Su Chen's proposal is absolutely fair and just, providing a wealth of comparative data. Differentiating the strengths and weaknesses of the two competitors is quite clear with this data. However, almost no club does this because the duration is simply too long. Drivers and machines must also consider their future, right? If they end up being eliminated, it would mean missing out on this year's provincial race. As before the provincial competition, most clubs have already formed their teams, and team races require coordination. Who would form a team temporarily a month or 2 before a race? Yu Ming was stunned because didn't Su Chen know about the upcoming open races and the point system? He had been pretending before. Damn it, what a twisted person. However, he quickly caught up with Li Yini's thought process, clearly sensing the risks that Su Chen and Huang Shixuan needed to bear in this showdown. He also understood that Su Chen was genuinely angry. Alright, no problem. Huang Shixuan looked up and down at Su Chen, as if seeing him in a new light. Let us not talk about anything else. Despite your underhanded tactics, you are still a man, unlike those. Well, anyway, you've got guts. If you can ultimately score higher than me, I will not only leave Beifong Wolf T2 willingly, but I will also call you father. You don't need to call me that. Su Chen shook his head and said, I don't have a reckless descendant like you with a lower score. Just apologize to Xingming properly. Huang Shixuan glanced at the sulking Xingming, not understanding Su Chen's meaning. Why? Because your words denied her efforts, which made her unhappy. Su Chen touched Xingming's airplane ears that were pressed against her head. She's unhappy, so I'm angry. Huang Shixuan still looked confused. He didn't understand why Xingming would be unhappy. Wasn't he standing up for her? It must be that Su Chen, this villain, had brainwashed Xingming too much. Just look at how she had changed. How could a machine girl work so hard for a city championship? This made no sense at all. With this thought, he looked at Su Chen with an even colder gaze. Fine, although it's impossible for you to win against me. To make you understand how to cherish your machine girl, Huang Shixuan snorted coldly. I'll take on this boring challenge. Within a week, I will qualify for the City Car King Championship. I hope you don't regret your impulsiveness and foolishness when you see my results. After saying that, he stood up directly, put on his clothes without wearing shoes, and walked toward the door with a swagger. Xiaoyun, let us go. On the sofa, the machine girl who heard Huang Shixuan's call woke up as if from a dream. She jumped up like an ant on a hot pan, wanting to follow, but noticed Huang Shixuan wasn't wearing shoes. So she abruptly stopped, bent down to pick up a pair of shoes that were a bit worn out. As she passed by everyone, she hurriedly bowed deeply and whispered an apology. Only then did she dash after Huang Shixuan's figure. It looked busy, but no one knew what it was busy with. Damn it, that blonde guy, what is he showing off for? He thinks he can clear the city championship in a week. Dream on. Yu Ming spat disdainfully. Li Yini sighed, rubbed her swollen forehead, and felt a bit sleepy. In the corridor of the office building, sunlight filtered through the windows, leaving white squares on the floor. A tall and a short figure moved between the squares. They walked side by side, with the petite figure having to jog to keep up. She reached out to grab the hem of the tall figure's shirt. And that person paused, immediately slowing down. Su Chen stared at them disappearing at the end of the corridor, narrowing his eyes slightly. Interesting. That blonde guy is somewhat interesting. Chapter 70. Excessive enthusiasm. Xingming's face was clearly not happy. What's wrong? Su Chen rubbed her cat-like head, amused, and asked. Are you still angry about what happened just now? No, I don't want to be his dad. Xingming said, looking very wronged. If we win, he'll have to call me dad, but I don't want to lose to them, and I don't want him to call me dad. She sighed, patting her head in distress. It's too hard. Why does this world have to make it difficult for me, meow? Suchin chuckled. Xingming, you've got it wrong. If we win, he just needs to apologize to you. He doesn't have to call you dad. Meow? Xingming looked at Suchin with confusion and shook her head vigorously. So if we lose, we have to call him dad. No way, that's just too much. How about you tell him that if we win, he can let the mecha girl call me sister? I can accept that, hee. Suchin replied, but isn't that still a huge loss? However, it seems that in the world of mecha girls, age isn't the only standard for determining seniority. When mecha girl A thinks that mecha girl B is stronger than her, O would call sister. For example, Xingming would refer to queen as sister queen. But in reality, if we were to consider the order of their creation, it's possible that Xingming was born before queen. So for mecha girls, being called sister should be quite a delightful thing. Similar to how friends or rivals in male social circles might call someone dad. It seems like there might actually be some feasibility to this idea. They could discuss it the next time they meet Huang Shixuan. It's likely they one team meet in the T2 office of the Northern Wolves again before he secures a top 3 finish in the city championship. Do you know about Huang Shixuan's background? Suchin asked Li Yini. Not really. I just know he is a relative of our manager. And I'm not sure what his family does. He has won several underground races. Li Yini pondered, stroking her chin. Now that you mention it, I realize his identity is quite mysterious. But we are a club, not a criminal investigation team. As long as he has a driver's license and isn't from another club, he can apply to join normally. Suchin remained silent. Huang Shixuan was no simple character. If his confidence came from his skills and experience, he must have undergone professional training. But he didn't seem like someone with that kind of capability. After all, his clothes looked a bit worn out. Could he be a fallen prodigy from some sect? What? Suchin, what are you saying? Yu Ming leaned in closer with his hearing aid. I said you're a fish fryer. I'm a fish fryer? Then you're a dead pervert. Yu Ming exclaimed indignantly, turning to Xingming. Xingming, your driver isn't a good person. He has bad intentions towards you, so be careful when you sleep at night. It's best to lock the door, or who knows what strange things he might do. Meow? Xingming tilted her head and hugged Suchin's arm, her cute face leaning against him. But I sleep with Mosh-chan at night. Yu Ming was taken aback, his eyes immediately turning red as he looked at Suchin. What the heck? You beast. How could you take advantage of such a cute and obedient cat girl? What gives you the right? He was getting more and more outrageous. When did Suchin take advantage of her? Couldn't the car cover have collectible value? Couldn't it be studied from the perspective of a modifier to appreciate the beauty of human clothing design? Fortunately, he didn't need to intervene. Someone else stepped in. Zhu Ying grabbed Yu Ming by the ear, dragging him towards a small room with a dark expression, causing his hearing aid to fall to the ground with a clatter. Zhu Ying, be gentle. My ear, it's going to fall off. The door slammed shut with a bang, but Yu Ming's pig-like screams still echoed from inside the room. Not sure if it's just an illusion, but Suchin vaguely heard a hint of enjoyment in the screams. Yu Ming is just like that, always provoking his mech girl for no reason. Li Yini sighed and shook her head, saying that they should get used to it. It was common for the two of them to bicker. Suchin's mouth twitched. So Yu Ming is actually a masochist? He usually presents himself as a cold and aloof star racer, and seems to have quite a few female fans because of it. If those fans knew what Yu Ming was like in private, they would probably be disillusioned. Come over and register, Li Yini waved to Suchin. After that, you can choose to take a tour of our club or go home, but I suggest you come by every day. Although you're not yet a member of our team, you can still enjoy some benefits, like having a track analyst explain the race maps to you. This was actually a nice perk. Suchin privately gave a thumbs up. He wasn't a racer, and wasn't he familiar with the race maps of this world. Having someone explain the city racing championship maps from a professional perspective would be great. He filled out his and Xingming's information as Li Yini requested, and then asked, "Can I consult your modification specialist about some questions? Although I'm a racer, I'm very interested in modifications." Of course. Li Yini focused on her computer screen and nodded without thinking. Our A-grade modifier, a girl named Noah, is quite enthusiastic. If you go to her, she will be very happy to share everything with you. What? You mean you want to know what the exam content for the modification certification is, and what materials you need to prepare? Yes. Suchin nodded at the girl sitting opposite him. Compared to the stale old-timers from the Night Voice, this girl had a clear, youthful, and vibrant feel. Her shoulder-length purple princess-cut hair framed her fair, oval face, which featured delicate, yet exquisite features. Even with a pair of thick black-framed glasses that nearly covered half her face, her energetic vibe couldn't be hidden. She didn't look like a modifier. She resembled a cute mechanic in a beige short-sleeved bear-printed t-shirt and a pair of pocket-filled overalls. He had noticed Miss Noah outside the modification room earlier, but hadn't connected her to the role of a modifier. He had thought she was the daughter of one of the modifiers. Unexpectedly, she was the A-grade modifier herself. Well, you asked the right person, huh? Noah pushed up her glasses, and her exotic light green eyes brightened, a pleasant curve appearing at the corners of her eyebrows. It's the first time a driver has consulted me about such questions. Do you have a green bubble? Add me as a friend, and I'll send you the materials later, along with my previous study plan and the various exam papers I collected. I guarantee you'll do great on the exam. By the way, have you and your mech girl eaten yet? I had hazelnut and pine nut cupcakes for lunch today. Do you want to try some? They taste really good. Your mech girl is so cute. Are her ears real? Wow, they can actually move. I'm seeing a cat girl specialized mech for the first time. Can I not touch the tail? That's a pity. Su-chan watched as the talkative Noori circled around Xingming. He finally understood why Li Yini paused just now. This girl is really nice, truly enthusiastic and chatty. Oh, no way. No way, meow. Xingming had been forced into a corner, pressing against the wall and hiding her tail, waving her arms. Back. Back, back, back. Meow. Speaking of which, does a cat girl specialized mech need extra holes in the back of the underwear? Noori stared at Xingming's tail with curiosity, still pondering. Or maybe she isn't wearing any at all. Don't be shy. I'm not wearing any either. Suchin, I'm just saying. The desire to share can be strong, but it doesn't have to be that intense. Really. Chapter 71. About the Starlight pilots, it turns out that many professional details cannot be found online. After chatting for a while with the enthusiastic and sharing Noori, this girl nearly revealed all the secrets of the modifiers. Many things were quite different from what Suchin had thought. For example, the basic modification modules are not mass-produced by machines, but created by a special group known as modelers. Special isn't really the right word, as the first step to becoming a modifier is to become a modeler. The modifier is essentially an awakened version of the modeler. The threshold to become a modeler isn't as high as that of a modifier. One can become a modeler by successfully awakening star energy through a series of learning and training. The treatment of these modelers is comparable to that of mid-level elites in the past, slightly better than white-collar workers, but not as rare as modifiers. Things were indeed not as simple as Suchin had thought. The prerequisite to obtain an A-level modifier certificate is to have the basic qualities of a modeler and awaken star energy. He currently has a D-level modifier certificate, but he lacks star energy. After all his modification actions stem from the divine hand. Are you interested in awakening star energy? I have a training plan I can send you. Noori paused, looking at Suchun and Xingming with a flirtatious gaze. She chuckled and lowered her voice. It's quite difficult for ordinary people to awaken star energy, but you have a mech. Mechs are high-purity carriers of star energy, and with the help of a mech, you can understand and awaken star energy more quickly. This way, you can at least become a modeler, and if you have talent, you could become a Starlight pilot, which would be a huge gain. Starlight pilot? Suchin caught a brand new term and was taken aback. What is that? Wow. Your knowledge is even more lacking than I imagined, but since you just entered the professional racing circle, it's understandable. Noori patted her rather impressive chest and bragged. Feel free to ask me any questions in the future. I'm definitely reliable in this area. The so-called Starlight pilots, like modifiers, are a group favored by the star gods. Modifiers can utilize star energy to analyze modification modules and create modification cores. The Starshine drivers harness their star energy to awaken special abilities, aiding the mech girls in gaining an advantage on the racetrack. Noah raised a finger. Looking serious, let me give you an example. Suppose a mech girl crashes into the guardrail and gets seriously injured, causing her energy reserves to deplete significantly. Would she then be unable to continue the race? Both Xingming and Suchun nodded in agreement. The duo sat upright, resembling attentive students in class. Now, if this mech girl's driver is a Starshine driver, and he possesses a skill called Glory Rebirth that not only instantly heals the mech girl's injuries, but also fully replenishes her energy reserves, then she can continue the race. This is the power of a Starshine driver. Noah placed her hands on her hips and raised her chin, as if she had transformed into a Starshine driver herself. So, Suchin, do you understand? Suchin understood. It's like summoner skills: blink, teleport, heal, weaken, paralyze. In short, the same idea. What about you, Xingming? Do you get it? Xingming shook her head and then nodded, her gaze somewhat unfocused. If you understand, repeat what I just said. Noah tapped the table. If the driver of a Starshine driver is a mech girl and possesses a Starshine skill, they can instantly recover the driver's injuries and fully replenish their energy, allowing the driver to successfully complete the race. Meow. Xingming froze, her cat ears and fluffy hair standing up as she tilted her head. It seems something's not quite right, Meow. Oh dear, where did you find such a adorably silly cat girl specialized mech? Noah looked at Xingming with a mischievous grin and then turned to Suchun with a pitiful expression. Can I borrow Xingming for one night? No, 3 nights. I can hardly imagine how delightful it would be to sleep with such a cute cat girl specialized mech, playing with her tail and ears. The modification specialist seemed to be breaking down, pounding her chest in frustration. Damn it, you jerk, how can you eat so well? Suchin, why are you suddenly cursing? Just talk normally. I don't want to sleep with you. Xingming snapped back to reality, hugging Su-chin tightly and glaring fiercely at Noah. I only sleep with Moss. You won't get to touch her tail and ears, only Moss can. Give it up, you strange woman. Noah seemed to be hit hard by this, her energy visibly deflating. But she quickly regained her composure, saying, in any case, Starshine drivers are quite common. As you climb higher, you'll eventually encounter these folks. But don't worry too much. As long as your skills and performance are good enough, you can still hold your own against them. Su-chin's mind raced as he processed the information provided by Noah. This was the emergence of a unique group and cultivation system from another world, wasn't it? Starshine drivers undoubtedly had an advantage over ordinary drivers.